experience and postgraduate experience for the upcoming elections. That's really exciting. I'm Rebecca.
I'm Sabrina.
We're going to start with the candidates of academic experience.
Yeah, so first we have Sean. So his manifesto is basically, so one of his first points is about student locations. And he talks about creating common rooms for all schools, so individual schools. So this is like for events, to meet with course friends, and for group learning. So I thought that was a really good point.
It's very nice that he's trying to promote this sense of community,
Yeah.
especially with locations, because it is quite true. There's not many places where you have a common room.
No, I definitely agree, because whenever I go into the library especially, and there's, you know how in the library you get those group rooms where you can like book a room and like just work in groups, those are never free. When I go, they're never free.
Yeah.
So if we had our own like schools, then maybe it will be more available to our students.
And it's also very interesting because obviously with the libraries, that's more of an academic side. So this is academic experience. But for example, accommodation, they also provide common rooms. You see in Rutherford, they have study hubs. There are different places. For example, I know I live in Keynes, and we technically have a common room, but we have no access to it. So this point that he's trying to enforce this sense of community is really good. Other points Sean has come up with is very inclusive. For example, he wants Medway to be more involved with the Canterbury campus, to stop having this disparity between us both.
No, I definitely agree. And he had another point, which I actually really liked, is better communication between the Kent Union and the students, because he says that we just communicate through emails like once in a while, and I don't feel like that's effective. Like, I agree with him, it's not as effective. I remember when, because I'm a third year university student, I'm old, yes.
No, you're not.
Yes, I'm old, but in first year I actually added the Kent Union on Snapchat, but they would only post when they had events, so they would only post once in a while. But if they were more active on that, because most students use Snapchat, well, all my friends use Snapchat, so if they...
I'm a Snapchatter.
See, so if they posted more on Snapchat and then showed more of their like events that were happening, I feel like people will be more engaged with them.
Yeah.
So I really liked that point.
I like that Sean, for example, he really appreciates the position of students. Even in his manifesto, he actually says that he wants students to be at the forefront of Kent Union. And he also says something about... because we quickly discussed about locations. He wanted to bring it also with community connections. He wants university to feel like home, and because University of Kent is the European university, feeling like home is such. I can't even explain it. The feeling. I mean, to kind of get out of that loneliness and isolation. So it's actually such a beautiful idea.
I definitely agree. So we have another candidate as well, which is Victoria, and she talks more about the importance of well-being, so more student support, which is very important. For example, like more counselling maybe for our mental health, because I know many university students do experience mental health, because like you said, university can be a lonely place.
It can be a lot of stress.
A lot of stress.
I mean, the university does a great job anyways at providing welfare and well-being facilities.
That's true.
But the fact that she wants to bring more awareness to that support is tremendous. She also wants to, how should I say, promote the idea of common rooms. I mean, that's interesting.
So kind of similar to Sean as well.
Very similar. I mean, that's kind of the similarity between these two people's manifestos.
Yeah.
But she also wants, very interestingly, to promote accessibility to academic societies.
I found that interesting.
I didn't know societies are hard to enter, because, during Freshers Week, you have society fairs, and sports, you have a lot of taster trials, for sports.
Yeah.
But then I presume for academic societies, maybe it's easier to go into your degree, but then it's a bit harder to join others if you have an interest in it.
I definitely agree. And I feel like there was similar points between Victoria and Sean, but overall I do feel like they're mainly aiming at us and students, and mainly like applying what we would want as students. So, and I like that they're getting us more involved.
I think these two candidates have a bit of a different strategy. For example, Victoria is very internal. She really goes for students, while Sean is more external. He even says he wanted to improve the ability of teaching. But now we're going to watch a little clip about the manifestos of academic experience. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Hi, my name is Sean Canet. I'm running for Vice President of Academic Experience. Hi, so my manifesto is all about bringing the students back into the union and making them engage and making them feel like they are welcome, connected and desired in the union, because it really is a students' union. I want to do that by making sure that everyone feels connected to their local environments first, and then I want to put them at the forefront of every decision we make as a union. And the same goes for Medway and all the other campuses we have. I want everyone to feel part of this.
My name's Vicky Saywood-Reid and I'm running for VP Academic Experience. I'm all about student wellbeing. I want to make sure that all UKC lecturers are trained in wellbeing and that there's better awareness for ILPs. I want to make sure that Drury Hall Library is open 24/7 during term time. I want to make academic societies more accessible to everyone. I want to make sure that Enhancement Week is more subject specific, and I also want to make sure that every school has a common room and that within those schools there's a book borrowing scheme.
So those were the candidates for the academic experience, and
I like that. I liked their manifestos. That's good.
I wish them all the best. And I mean, it's it's a bit tight. They're two rivals. So.
Yeah, and it's hard running up for elections and being brave as well to do that and go up and say what you're doing. But now we're actually going to talk about the postgraduate experiences, and there's actually 4 candidates for this. So that is interesting. So the first person is Floris, and he actually discusses, so this is obviously postgraduate experience, so he actually talks about pre-arrival support. So talk to academics before actually picking your modules.
That is a very fascinating point to tackle, because most people, I believe, you read the description that it says on the website what you can study for your module, but you don't really, if you don't have that interaction or communication with the lecturer who is going to undertake it, you may discover that you actually don't like it. Maybe it doesn't fit you, but
you actually get an insight. Because I remember when I was applying for university, but obviously I'm not on postgraduate, but when I was an undergraduate, I've actually changed my subject because I didn't like the course I did once I got into it. So I do feel like it's important to discuss with your academic advisor. If we actually had this opportunity, maybe I would have known sooner that I wouldn't have wanted to do that subject. So I like that. He also discusses mental health awareness as well, and how every school should actually have a point of contact for somebody, like I said, like a counsellor. That's really interesting as well, because obviously mental health is very important.
I like that Flores actually really advocates for the importance of PhD students. For example, he really says that if you work in an office, you deserve to have your own desk, which is very, that sense of validation is just amazing. It's immense. And he also says that, for example, if a PhD student is teaching, they should be rightly compensated for their job, but at the same time, if beforehand, they should get some training. So that's...
Because most postgraduates do teach, so that's very beneficial.
I think perhaps there's a tendency to overlook PhD students.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is a lot of stress. It's genuinely a lot of work.
Yeah, and they're also students, so they're also important. So there's another candidate as well called Laura, and she supports she wants to advocate supporting schemes academically. She also talks about welfare and healthcare and individual support for those dependents. Okay.
She also says something about engagement with societies. That's another good thing, because, for example, how there is disparity between Medway and Canterbury. There's disparity between PhD students and the other students, because I think it's harder for them to join societies, especially sport. They're always so
100%,
busy. And
definitely.
And Laura is actually trying to do this thing called joint sports strategy.
I found that
with
really
Medway.
interesting.
So that seems like such...
Yeah, because when I think of societies and when societies promote themselves, you mainly see that it's towards undergraduates. So if we had more things for postgraduates, I feel like that would be really
It was
good.
really sweet because she's trying to promote community, but in a different sense. Because she was saying, you know, you have community. You're in the classroom. You're working together. You're doing all these different projects. But
Yeah.
she was saying, I'd like to see them outside these rooms. I would like to see them outside these academic boundaries. And she said something about morning coffee and having the possibility and facility to do that.
Yeah, because it was relating back to your point about community, like having friends and speaking to each other. I really like that.
We have another candidate called Valeria, and I like, and one of her points is parking. So parking is actually quite.
Do you know how actually important that is?
Yeah,
That
it's
is
such an important.
Yeah.
It's quite important issue that I did not realize.
Yeah, because most of some of my friends as well, they drive, and they also talk about how hard it is to find parking. So, and obviously postgraduates, they're older, so then most of them will probably have a car as well. So I actually thought that was a really important point, and the fact that she thought about it as well, I was like, wow, you're actually thinking about.
Because when you're a PhD student, I mean, you're still a student, but you're a bit older, so you
Yeah.
want everything to be affordable, you want it to be accessible, and, you know, getting those green permits to be able to park at a busy university. You live
Exactly.
far away, maybe you have a job, so that's
Exactly.
very considerate.
I also liked her other point about non-term time Medway shuttles.
Yeah, during summertime.
Yeah, because usually shuttles are usually during term time. So, and I feel like postgraduate students, I think they travel during non-time. Yeah. So that would
And
be
most
really good.
PhD students, I mean, most students from second year and above, they tend to stay over more in the summer because they have commitments here in Canterbury, whether it's work experience, internships, just jobs, just part-time
Definitely.
jobs or full-time jobs.
Yeah. So the last.
That's a great point to
I definitely
implement.
agree. So the last candidate is Elena, and she also talks about postgraduate lounge and study places in the library. So because I feel like the library is mostly catered to undergraduates, so she was talking about lounge space for postgraduates. So maybe they can have their own sort of space because obviously they would relate to each other more. So I feel that's
Another
really good.
thing I really like what Alana put is creating this point called open door policy. So it's for example, obviously when you're an undergraduate,
Yeah.
the idea of finding help seems such more relevant just because you're new, you're in a new place. So going to ask help from experienced people seems logical. But with this open door policy, it still says, you know, I'm a PhD student, but I still want to have that approachability to whether it's my lecturer or whether they're my peers. I want to have that contact with, you know, with the office hours.
And coming off from that, she actually said she wants to make a Facebook page for the postgraduates. But I don't know if there's already one, but I'm actually surprised there isn't one.
That is surprising. There's a Facebook page for everything.
It literally, and especially being an undergraduate, there's a Facebook page literally for students to say if they want accommodation or if they want to like sell some of their books.
And it's also it's divided based on what type of school you are. So if you're in the School of Arts, if you're in the School of Anthropology, if you're in the School of Politics. So, I mean, it's very varied. She also mentions quite quickly accommodation and parking. So this is a reoccurring issue that postgraduate students are facing. And she also wants to promote the idea, more information of how to find employment, internship, research, and workshops. Because after you finish your PhD, then you have to actually enter the real world and have that leeway. So it's great that she's trying to, you know, expand that, spread the word out, and actually help people have an easier transition considering it's...
Yeah, I liked the parking and accommodation point you made because she actually made a key point about how she wanted to make it affordable. And obviously, university experience is expensive. So having these affordable parking spaces, accommodation spaces, especially for postgraduates, is so important.
We're going to now watch the clip about the postgraduate experience candidates, and they'll tell us a little bit more about the manifestos.
Yeah.
Enjoy, guys.
My name is Alana Bailey, and I'm running for Vice President of Postgraduate Experience. So postgraduates get stressed, so let's get lounges and relaxed workspaces that are there for them to chill out and have fun and also be able to work. But it's no good if they can't get there or live there, so let's improve accommodation and get green postgraduate parking permits. But then the Medway people are stuck, so let's get that shuttle bus running through summer. And I've always got an open door policy. You can always contact me, so let's make change happen together.
Hi, I'm Floris Claessens and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience. This is what I'm running on. I want new students to be aware of support services on housing or visas and to be able to talk to an academic before picking new models. I want better support for mental health. I want PGR students who work regularly in the office to have a designated desk. I want a summer term shuttle bus service to Medway and to Canterbury. I want a better support for teaching PhD students and to make sure that they have fair pay for their work.
Hi, I'm Laura Carlin and I'm running for the new postgrad sabbatical role. So I want to lobby for better support schemes for those who are postgrads and those who wish to continue their studies into postgrads, while focusing on letting them know everything they can get involved in but before they get to university, so they know they can get involved in extracurricular activities and the support they can get from the union to do so.
Hi, my name is Valeria and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience. My manifesto is all about bringing the postgraduate community, not just in Canterbury but also at other University of Kent campuses, together. I am looking forward to creating a bigger voice for the student community at this university by introducing more non-term time shuttles between Medway and Canterbury, postgraduate forums to discuss a number of important issues, and also just to bring back that feel-good factor among the 4,000 or so of us across the university campuses.
So those were the candidates for the postgraduate experience.
Really good.
So as you heard it all there, guys, it's can't be clearer than that.
Yeah, so now going back to the academic experience, I actually want to know how you felt about the candidates and what you felt was, maybe what stuck out to you from each of the candidates?
I think an interesting point, which I've not heard of before, was by Victoria, was that she wants to improve enhancement weeks. So she wants to have, during those weeks off, well, they're dedicated to reading. I'm a bit tongue-tied, sorry guys. She wants to...
It's fine.
I mean, enhancement weeks, we all go through them, and what Victoria wants to do is implement activities that you can do and they're course specific, which I find it interesting because during this time you're trying to make I can't think of a word, recover with work you maybe have delayed on, maybe do your essays, whatever you have to do. But sometimes people maybe finish all of that because maybe their deadlines are very earlier on. And so...
I mean, that was never me, but yes, I would wish... Yeah, no,
Mine varies. Mine genuinely varies. And she wants to actually still keep the students engaged and not become lazy during those times. So that actually stood out to me.
Gives them a little bit of boost, doesn't it?
It's a little bit of boost when you have those
I agree.
moments.
One point that I mentioned before as well was actually one of Sean's points, and how he talked about better communication, because personally I love social media and I'm always on social media. Like sometimes I can catch myself sitting there for an hour just scrolling through stuff. So what better way to be on social media than actually getting involved with your Kent Union and being more informed on the union. So I liked how he said that it's not just emails, because if I'm being honest, I don't know.
When's the last time you've been on your email?
I don't know how regularly I check my emails. Do you ever get this when you're scared to check your email sometimes?
Yeah, it seems very formal. And I mean, especially if you're an undergraduate student and you move from home, or maybe you rarely use your email account, and then finally you're thrusted into this limelight that all the most important emails about your course, your degree, everything.
Always check your email. Literally, there was this one time where I had a seminar, my seminar room changed, but I didn't know because she sent it in the email. So
and you had got no notification about it.
Yeah, and I'd gone to the old seminar room, so maybe. So yeah. I
mean, social media is a really modern idea, and that is completely fantastic that he's trying to make that transition.
Yeah, he's
now talking a bit more about the postgraduate experience candidates. A very interesting idea, one of the proposals I found with Alana is I think we already mentioned this a bit beforehand, but it was genuinely that she wants to increase information on employment, because that is such a stressful step of life, but it's pivotal. That is ultimately what we're all going to go into.
Yeah, because I'm in my 3rd year of uni now, and obviously that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about what am I going to do after uni, like a job, and it's a very scary thought to think about, because if you imagine, and especially if you're a postgraduate, you've been studying for years, and you've been in uni for years, and you have this sort of structure, but then when you leave university, like, you have all this free time on what you're going to do, and it's time to figure out your career and how you're going to progress. It's so much things to think about.
Exactly.
So if we did have that guidance, then it would be
the
so
university
relaxing.
does an amazing job anyways. It always has employability fairs to help people out, but having more, but especially for PhD students, PhD students, postgraduate students, that whole category, and having something tailored to their needs.
Definitely. And with the other candidates, so for example, Floris, Laura, they mentioned it about mental health awareness. And like I said before, that's so important. And the university does offer a lot of stuff like counselling, having those sessions. But if we had a more direct contact and how to access those explicitly, I feel like much more people reach for help, because sometimes people are embarrassed.
They're embarrassed. That's why the university does also an amazing thing with phone lines. They have a couple different phone lines, which you can have this anonymity about yourself and just talk to somebody.
That is amazing.
But sometimes that is not enough, because you can never check up on someone. But another thing, really interesting thing Flores says, is that he really wants to implement January exams.
Yeah.
Which I think is a bit controversial. I don't know how people will feel about that. That can simultaneously be a really good thing, but at the same time, people may dislike it a bit.
I always feel like with that subject, it's always a half and half thing. You would want some people who would want it, and you want people that don't want it. So maybe if we could find a middle ground or something that...
Like a compromise.
Yeah, like a compromise. But I'm sure if he did win, or if he did, he would make that compromise.
And our next candidate, Laura, for example.
Laura.
She said that she wants... I found this really stood out for me. One of her points in her manifestos is she wants to review contracts and conditions that students who kind of work as teachers. And that is very interesting to put out there. I mean, as one of the points on your manifesto, because this kind of suggests that there needs to be taken care more attention of.
Yeah, because like I said before, like most postgraduates people with PhD do go on to actually teach. So if they had reviewed contracts and stuff, because it's hard to teach and study at the same time. Exactly. So maybe if they had what she's saying, it would be easier for them. So yeah, no, I definitely agree. Valeria, she talks about, like I said, non-term time shuttles. That's really important as well, because how they study during the summertime and they don't have the access. Because if we don't have the term time shuttle, we're going to have to pay to go on train, and
which is it's not nice.
Yes, it's not fair.
Valeria also says she kind of really does promote the fact that you need to find a balance between work life and then your academic career per se. So the idea that she really stresses that she puts an emphasis on this balance, really fits in well with well-being and welfare, which is, I mean, I think for anybody, regardless of what point of study you are or what point in life you are, it's really hard to find that balance. So I really admire her for trying to strive for that.
No, I definitely agree, and having that balance is what we must learn as well, because when we grow up and we come out of university, I say when we grow up.
We always grow up. I mean, life is about evolving.
Yeah, but so when we grow up, so then obviously we need this balance. So
we're going to watch a clip about Aaron, the president of Kent Union, talk about how you can vote for elections. So if you're interested in voting about the candidates for postgraduate and academic experience, this is the way you can do it. Enjoy, guys.
it's really important that you vote. For years, people have fought for the right to vote, so if you have the right, might as well use it. At the end of the day, us as full-time officers, we affect your student experience. We're here to represent you. We're here to make sure that your time here at Kent is best as it can be. So you need to make sure that you vote for the people that you believe will do that for you. Vote for the people who you think will represent you and represent your interests, and ensure that you get the student experience that you want and that you deserve. So please go out, vote, and make your voice heard. You can vote online or in the venue. So when voting opens, you can go onto our website, click vote, and vote for the people that you want, or go into venue. There's some screens and some computers set up there. You can easily just vote there as well.
So that was Aaron explaining how you can vote for these upcoming elections that will be taking place on Monday.
On Monday.
I think, as Aaron said, there are two ways you can vote. You can have it the really easy, lazy way, which is online. I mean, most of us are on our laptops anyways. So if you want to be in the comfort of your own room and just vote, you can do it online. Or you can go to venue, I believe, where there are also going to be companies there and you can get freebies. So I mean, go vote, because who doesn't want to get maybe a lollipop or a voucher or something like that? Yeah,
but alongside that, I don't feel like people know how important voting is. Like, voting is so important, because I'm a politics student, so I'm very passionate about this. But I feel like if you want the way, for example, your uni experience, if you want to have some sort of control in your uni experience, you need to vote.
Especially with these candidates that we just talked about now, about your postgraduate experience and your academic experience. This is your academic career. These 3 years or 4 years, these candidates kind of can help you dictate more what you want to get out of it and the sort of expectations you want. They're kind of the voices. They can help you guide. If you want your voices heard and you agree with one of these candidates' manifestos, by going to vote, this is the way you can have all these changes implemented.
Exactly, because if you maybe really like one of their points, if you want to make it happen, you need to go out, you need to go vote for them. And also, I heard that they're going to be in the plaza, so they're going to be there for the whole week, so they can go and speak to them and discuss them. And I really feel like as us students, we should go out and speak to them. And
so if you have any personal inquiries or doubts or worries or questions, especially because the candidates will be on the plaza, just talk to them, ask them the questions, ask them all the worries you have, because they will give you illumination, they will help you understand more what they want to do and what their purpose will be as your representative.
And we're actually going to be covering that on Kent TV, so definitely stay tuned for that. But like I said, if they're going to be in the plaza all week speaking, go speak to them, say how you're going to do this, how you're going to do that, because obviously we can read their manifestos, we can see it, and they're telling us how they're going to offer it. But if you actually go to them and speak to them, you can actually ask them how you're going to do that and what you're going to offer, what else you're going to offer us. So it's very important to maybe scrutinize them as well, and also see which candidate you actually like. So
the next clip we're going to watch is Aaron, the president of Kent Union, and the personal advice he gave he's giving candidate. Sorry there for a bit of tongue twister. So enjoy, guys.
Candidates, election time is always stressful. It's always a lot of work, long nights, long days, but stay in there, don't give up, it'll be worth it in the end. And even if you don't win, the experience is amazing. So give your best and do your best for students.
Like Aaron said, do your best. So
I'm going to miss him as a president, even though I'm not going to be here next year. I'm going to miss him.
The candidates have an immense job to do. I mean, the next thing we're going to see are the debates.
I'm so excited for that.
At Woody's. So if anyone is interested, you can go right now at Woody's and see it all go live.
Yeah, we'll also be covering that actually tomorrow. So we're actually going to be covering the presidential debate. So that's going to be really exciting.
That is going to be spicy.
That is going to be so exciting. I love debates because you can actually see how passionate they are about their manifestos and how maybe one might be better than the other, or how they compare or contrast. So I love debates. I love watching them.
And debates usually are they can go really well or go really badly. It depends. So hopefully there will be no harsh words spoken, because ultimately everyone has the same goal. You're trying to make a change, you're trying to make an improvement.
Yes, and actually the results will be out next week, Friday.
Oh gosh,
So
that is really quick. That is very fast.
that is very quick, but I'm actually nervous. I really hope everybody goes out to vote. So that will be this exciting
Considering
turnout.
you've been at the university for a couple of years, have you voted in the previous elections?
I did actually vote in the last one. In my first year, I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't vote.
A bit shy, just a bit shy.
Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't really pay attention to the Kent Union. The thing is, I didn't know how important Kent Union was, like unions was. And maybe if they told the first year students how important a union is, maybe I would have had more of an input. But no, second year, that's when I developed, and obviously I was less shy, so I was able to think, and then that's when I did actually go on.
I mean, Kent Union is amazing. They're trying to do all these great things for students. And through elections, this is how we can give back for all the hard work that they're putting into us, basically, because it's amazing.
Definitely
We're
great.
going to watch the manifestos again of the the academic experience candidates, and afterwards postgraduate experience candidates.
Hi, my name is Sean Kinney. I'm running for Vice President of Academic Experience. Hi, so my manifesto is all about bringing the students back into the union and making them engage and making them feel like they are welcome, connected and desired in the union, because it really is a students' union. I want to do that by making sure that everyone feels connected to their local environments first, and then I want to put them at the forefront of every decision we make as a union. And the same goes for Medway and all the other campuses we have. I want everyone to feel part of this.
My name's Vicky Saywood-Reid and I'm running for VP Academic Experience. I'm all about student wellbeing. I want to make sure that all UKC lecturers are trained in wellbeing and that there's better awareness for ILPs. I want to make sure that Drury Hall Library is open 24/7 during term time. I want to make academic societies more accessible to everyone. I want to make sure that Enhancement Week is more subject specific, and I also want to make sure that every school has a common room and that within those schools there's a book borrowing scheme.
My name's Alana Bailey and I'm running for Vice President of Postgraduate Experience. So postgraduates get stressed, so let's get lounges and relaxed workspaces that are there for them to chill out and have fun and also be able to work. But it's no good if they can't get there or live there, so let's improve accommodation and get green postgraduate parking permits. But then the Medway people are stuck, so let's get that shuttle bus running through summer. And I've always got an open door policy. You can always contact me, so let's make change happen together.
Hi, I'm Floris Claessens and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience. This is what I'm running on. I want new students to be aware of support services on housing or visas and to be able to talk to an academic before picking new models. I want better support for mental health. I want PGR students who work regularly in the office to have a designated desk. I want a summer term shuttle bus service to Medway and to Canterbury. I want a better support for teaching PhD students and to make sure that they have fair pay for their work.
Hi, I'm Laura Carlin and I'm running for the new postgrad sabbatical role. So I want to lobby for better support schemes for those who are postgrads and those who wish to continue their studies into postgrads, while focusing on letting them know everything they can get involved in, but before they get to university, so they know they can get involved in extracurricular activities and the support they can get from the union to do so.
Hi, my name is Valeria and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience. My manifesto is all about bringing the postgraduate community, not just in Canterbury, but also at other University of Kent campuses together. I am looking forward to creating a bigger voice for the student community at this university by introducing more non-term time shuttles between Medway and Canterbury, postgraduate forums to discuss a number of important issues, and also just to bring back that feel-good factor among the 4,000 or so of us across the university campuses.
So that was a recap of the manifestos for academic experience and postgraduate experience.
That was very interesting. Actually, last Tuesday was the debates for student engagement and welfare. Interesting.
I was actually in the studio and I was watching the KTV live. And for example, one of the points one of the candidates brought up was about gambling addiction, which was starking because I never knew gambling could be such a huge problem in university as a university student.
No, neither did I. And yeah, I never really thought about that.
It's mind-boggling because, I mean, as a student, you have all these pressures coming with money. I mean, because you have, from being back at home, where everything is provided to you, and then having the different sense of independence, where you have to be responsible for yourself. So to the point where you need to cook, and you have to eat for yourself and manage your money so you can have, luxuries, but leisure and also important stuff like buying textbooks and what have you.
Yeah.
But then gambling coming into it, that was just fascinating. But especially being brought up as a point in a manifesto.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. By the way, if you do want to watch those debates live, it's actually the videos on KTV Facebook page, so you can definitely watch that. But with the welfare stuff about the gambling, I feel like it's good that they're bringing up minority issues.
Exactly.
Because like you said, you didn't know, and I didn't know. So maybe, but if somebody is actually hearing this and actually has these gambling problems, they could be like, oh my God, I actually resonate with that.
It's great that they're not keeping it taboo. So if it's an issue, if it's a problem and it's affecting an individual or a group of people, it's great that they're trying to raise it up and get rid of it or find solutions to it. And I mean, that's the beauty of these manifestos and the work that these candidates are trying to do.
These are why these are candidates, and they're going up. They know exactly. What else did you feel like was good during the debates? Did anything else really pop out to you?
During welfare and student engagement, they're all strong candidates.
Yeah, that's something that I realised as well. I actually couldn't point out, oh my God, which one I would really want, because they're all so good.
They all either have very similar ideas, but with their own personal style to it. So it's
I love that. I love when they add their personal style.
They're having that individuality. So essentially, they're all trying to obviously come to the same destination, the same point of solutions, because it's the same category. You can't really have a different person saying really different random things.
I definitely agree. That's why when we have these debates for the academic experience and the postgraduate and the presidential, the debates that are coming up, I really hope they did what they did, as in show their personalities, because that's what debates are about. They're about showing who you are more, because you actually get to speak to the people directly or on camera. You get to speak to them.
That is why it's such a good opportunity if you want to go right now and see the debates for academic experience and postgraduate experience at Woody's. Because then you will actually get to see the opinions behind the candidates, behind the manifesto. You will actually get to see the person that may or may not present you next year.
So excited. So that's coming up soon, guys. So I'm so excited to see the debate. But I do feel like that, obviously, like you said, there's a lot of similar points, but if they show their personalities, it will definitely be something worthwhile to watch. But I'm actually very excited for this.
And to talk a bit more about academic experience and postgraduate experience, because these are the debates that are happening in an hour or so. Very soon. They're happening extremely soon right now. They have very similar points. For example, postgraduate recurring points are parking, community, and it's stunning how these things are so easily overlooked.
Yeah, and if they talk about more, like for example, the gambling one, more taboo things, if they talk about more, put it more to light, then it's so important. So I definitely agree.
We're going to watch a clip about asking the candidates questions. So this is going to be very interesting.
Hi, my name is Sean Canal. I'm running for Vice President of Academic Experience. Not being able to juggle.
What's been your biggest achievement? Go.
My biggest achievement was getting the site.
Right, you go. Your biggest achievement.
My biggest achievement was getting the psychology students through the 2018 spring strike. because we were not getting any communication from either university or the union, but we all pulled through.
What would winning mean to you?
Winning for me would mean being given the opportunity to actually make a difference on a higher level than I've been able to do before. And it would be a real confirmation of people's belief in that I can do it for them in ways that I guess they think that other people couldn't. And that, you know, that means a lot on a personal level.
Okay, and what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
I ran through some cornfields once.
My name's Vicky Saywood-Reid and I'm running for VP Academic Experience.
What's your biggest fear?
Not getting VP Academic Experience.
What's been your biggest achievement?
Doing Strictly Kent dancing.
What would winning mean to you?
It would mean a lot. It means that I can do everything for academic societies that they've done for me for the last 3 years.
And what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
Probably cheated on a test back in year 11.
That was very sweet, Victoria juggling there.
That is really hard. Do you know how it's really hard to juggle and speak at the same time?
It's a good party trick for sure.
True.
We've been experiencing a couple technical difficulties at the Woodies, so the debates will now be moved to the KTV studios. I'm not really sure about the postgraduate. They may still or may not still happen there, but you still should go to Woodies because you can see the debates live there. And again, if you want to ask your questions, if you want to interact with them.
You can still ask questions, yeah.
Exactly, just... so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the debates. Do you have any questions in mind that you want to put on a fellow candidate?
I actually definitely have questions because obviously I study politics, so I'm like always like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But
very picky.
Yeah.
Pinpoint them down.
But which I feel like all of us should be like that. We should make sure the people that are our leaders, we should definitely be
the
picky
more
to them.
sophisticated the question, the better the answer you get, and the better
Definitely.
idea you know if they're up to the task.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be, it could be an easy question, it could be a simple one, even a question that you think, oh my God, is this a stupid question? Still ask it. Just ask it.
No worries.
Definitely.
There's not going to be any judgment.
Like, like for example, like Sean, if I was to ask him where he talked about better communications and not just emails, I'd ask him how are you planning to say better communication? You say that you don't want to use emails. So what is your backup?
Because communication at its most basic form is talking.
Yeah.
So are you planning maybe to carry out a discussion? Are you gonna have like a public event where
what is your plan?
Because he does want to promote events. So how are you gonna spread the word out that you actively are seeking to make this?
Definitely. And he also mentions how he wants us students to be more involved in decision making. But how are you going to do that? Like, how are you going to get students more involved? Are you going to put us within what you're speaking about during your meetings? Are you going to do that? So, yeah, I definitely feel like
ultimately with Sean, he's trying to be very modern because he's trying to be innovative with the teaching grounds, but also, again, social media, as you said, because communication.
Definitely. And with Victoria then, she also talks about, what I would actually ask her is, she talks about the importance of well-being and student support. You say it's important, but how are you gonna improve that? How are you gonna improve welfare? Because there's actually already a lot of things that the university provides.
Yeah, exactly, there are a lot of things in place. So what is it specifically that is the issue that you want to resolve?
Exactly.
Because not many people know that. So it's great that she wants to promote awareness at the same time as giving that importance.
Yeah.
But another thing she wants to do is give 24/7 term time access to the drill hall library.
Wait, what is the drill hall library?
I think that is a library in town. Actually no, it must be in Medway.
Oh,
the library must be in Medway.
That's why I didn't know what it was, because it's in Medway. Okay, so that makes sense then. I thought they had access to it, or we had access to it.
I mean, it's great that Victoria is, because she's really promoting internal changes with
like you mentioned before, yeah.
But what's interesting is, obviously she's going to, because we're in the Canterbury campus and, you know, it's more spoken about, more changes happen there. It's very nice that she also is trying to provide those changes for Medway students, because we don't really know what's going up there, and they're also facing problems that are not really talked about. So it's nice. It shows that she's been listening and is providing a voice for them.
Exactly. So now what we're going to do, we're actually going to watch a clip on the postgraduates answering questions. So we just watched the
academic experience.
So now we're going to watch the postgraduate ones, which I'm excited about because that video was funny.
It will be very interesting to see what other party tricks the candidates have.
So stay tuned.
My name's Alana Bailey and I'm running for Vice President of Postgraduate Experience.
What's your biggest fear?
The darkened corners.
What's been your biggest achievement?
Becoming a kayaking whitewater person.
Okay, what would it mean to you?
It would mean everything, and I get to stay in my favourite place in Kent, which is awesome, and I get to make change happen.
Okay, and what's the thing you've ever done?
Strip twister at Caving Welcome Drinks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Floris Claessens and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience.
What's your biggest fear?
Honestly, campaigning. It fills me with a mortal dread.
What's been your biggest achievement?
I would say my review on pastoral care for PGR students. I've been working on that over last year, and some of my recommendations are being implemented right now in the university strategy.
Okay, what would winning mean to you?
It would mean being able to give a real voice to PG students, especially also PGR students who I fear might be forgotten if not being run by a PGR student.
Okay, and what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
That is a very good question. I think listening to some Tim Minchin songs the past couple of weeks, especially the Pope song, not PG-13.
Hi, I'm Laura Carlin and I'm running for the new postgrad sabbatical role.
Okay, what's your biggest fear?
Letting those down who really rely on me.
Okay, what's been your biggest achievement?
Getting my undergraduate degree in psychology.
What would winning mean to you?
Everything, giving back from everything I've achieved at this university and giving up other people the... Yep.
Okay, and what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
What? I don't know. I literally don't know. Naughtiest thing I've ever done. Not gone to lectures for weeks.
Hi, my name is Valeria and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience.
What is your biggest fear?
I think my biggest fear is losing somebody that's very dear to me.
What's been your biggest achievement?
Definitely Secretary General of the first Kent International Model United Nations Conference, but also scoring my dream internship with the University of Kent.
That's right, keep juggling. What would winning mean to you?
Literally the most amazing thing, and also just a proud moment of my budding career in university life, but also outside.
What's been the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
Besides the obvious ones, skipping a bunch of lectures and probably also copying off someone on a test. Not a proud moment, but yeah.
We just discovered that a couple of the postgraduate candidates can juggle, so everyone has a couple party tricks.
I'm actually surprised all these people know how to juggle. I can't even do 2, let alone 3.
It is actually something really hard to learn.
Exactly,
so
and they're answering questions as well.
we just been told that Alana, one of the candidates for postgraduate experience, just dropped out.
Yeah, so that's a bit sad.
That is a bit sad.
But
you know, she had a manifesto done. She tried her best, and
and
maybe
that's
it just
the most
wasn't,
important thing. Yeah.
And you know, maybe it wasn't her time right now, but maybe next year if she wants to join again, or it's not as if it's the end of the world.
I definitely agree. And actually the postgraduates will be coming here, like you said, to have their debate. So that would be next, but obviously Alana has dropped out. But she did try best and she did give her manifesto, which I actually liked. Because she had the open door policy as well.
She had the open door policy, which was actually a very intricate policy. out of the 4 candidates, which are now 3, all the 3 candidates for postgraduate experience are talking about having a shuttle bus to Medway.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's actually surprising how they all are like involved in Medway and want Medway to be involved.
The inclusivity is really,
Exactly.
really great.
Exactly. I do feel like that's really important though, because personally, I don't know a lot of people from Medway. I only know a few people from Medway, and they do say how they don't feel as included as Canterbury students. Because when you think of University of UKC, it's usually the Canterbury campus that gets more noticed, and most things actually happen. I even realised that most clubbing events even happen in Canterbury, so
which is really far away from Medway.
From Medway,
but
so
obviously, if all 3 candidates are seeking to have that, a cheaper shuttle bus experience to Medway during the summer, then, for example, with Flores, some of his points in his manifesto are about PhD students. It's about mental health, about pre-arrival support, about January exams. So when you think about all these things, then you think also these points must definitely also affect the Medway campus, because we can see this a lot of care and appreciation for Medway,
and so they should. They're definitely still part of they are part of our university, and of course they have to be involved. And there's loads of subjects that happen in Medway, because I know a lot of people who do sports subjects are located in Medway, so they need to be more involved in Canterbury as well. So I definitely agree that they should be more involved, because there's a big chunk of people who are actually missing out, especially postgraduates.
And with involvement as well. I mean, Valeria, one of her points is create events. So hopefully these events will partake both Canterbury and Medway. And if the shuttle bus thing will be a success, it will be very cheap. So it will be really, really good.
Definitely.
It will be a benefit.
And because you said they all mention like the Medway campus and stuff, they all actually mention the mental health and awareness stuff.
They're really, really focused on health. They're really focused about the health of the person, the individual.
That is so important, because obviously university is stressful, but what about all the external stuff because I live out, so I originally live in London, so I live out for university. So not only do you have your university stress, you have to think about money, you have to think about food, even just thinking, because I know you're catered, but I wasn't catered.
I'm a bit lazy.
Yes, I wasn't catered. So even thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner, what I'm going to eat for that could be stressful. So maybe having someone to counsel, not mainly on just your mental health, maybe on just how you're doing in life. Like, are you okay? You don't have to necessarily have something mental going on or something upsetting in your life.
It's still a stress the immense stress that goes over the body, and the older you grow, the more responsibility increases, and you're subjected to much more than an undergraduate. Because you just mentioned, I am part catered, I am that lazy. But next year,
you're thrown in the deep end, basically.
Exactly. But next year, when I have to move out of campus, I have to start cooking for myself. I can, let that be known. I'm just lazy.
I can't. So imagine how I live. But and obviously these are postgraduate students. So maybe because they're postgraduate, you can easily assume they're older. They've done university before.
They have this wisdom before.
Exactly. They know how to cope with it. They're fine. They don't need to be counseled.
We still need to offer that sympathy and empathy, because just because you're older, just because you're wiser, it doesn't mean you're not going through daily struggles that everybody is going through.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. But so they talked about obviously health awareness schemes. So they generally, like you said, are very similar.
I mean, their points are very well rounded. Their points focus on the person, they focus on facilities, they focus on external activities, they focus on their academia. So they're very well rounded.
Yeah. So now we're going to look at their manifestos, so their postgraduate manifestos, and just get a little overview of them. So enjoy.
My name's Alana Bailey, and I'm running for Vice President of Postgraduate Experience. So postgraduates get stressed, so let's get lounges and relaxed workspaces that are there for them to chill out and have fun and also be able to work. But it's no good if they can't get there or live there, so let's improve accommodation and get green postgraduate parking permits. But then the Medway people are stuck, so let's get that shuttle bus running through summer. And I've always got an open door policy. You can always contact me, so let's make change happen together.
Hi, I'm Floris Claessens and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience. This is what I'm running on. I want new students to be aware of support services on housing or visas and to be able to talk to an academic before picking new models. I want better support for mental health. I want PGR students who work regularly in the office to have a designated desk. I want a summer term shuttle bus service to Medway and to Canterbury. I want a better support for teaching PhD students and to make sure that they have fair pay for their work.
Hi, I'm Laura Carlin and I'm running for the new postgrad sabbatical role. So I want to lobby for better support schemes for those who are postgrads and those who wish to continue their studies into postgrads, while focusing on letting them know everything they can get involved in but before they get to university, so they know they can get involved in extracurricular activities and the support they can get from the union to do so.
Hi, my name is Valeria and I'm running for VP Postgraduate Experience. My manifesto is all about bringing the postgraduate community, not just in Canterbury but also at other University of Kent campuses, together. I am looking forward to creating a bigger voice for the student community at this university by introducing more non-term time shuttles between Medway and Canterbury, postgraduate forums to discuss a number of important issues, and also just to bring back that feel-good factor among the 4,000 or so of us across the university campuses.
So that was a little clip about the manifestos of the postgraduate experience. And we want to apologize that we just realized that
Laura's name has been coming up wrong in the VTs, so apologies for that, Laura.
It was just a technical difficulty and we're hoping to resolve it as fast as we can.
Yeah. So we have been talking about the postgraduate experiences, so let's just go back to the academic experiences and just touch on their manifestos again to give a bit of an overview. I actually wanted to talk about the common rooms because Sean mentions it and how he wants more events and course mates and group learnings to come together.
In his manifesto, if you read, to quote him, he says, "Feel like home, develop relationships," which is very interesting because it's not just relationships you have with your peers, with your friends, it's relationships you also develop with your teachers, the people that work at the university, regardless
academic advisors, yeah. Because so personally, this is my experience. When I was in first year, actually I'm in third year, and I actually have 0 course friends. I have 0 friends on my course. And do you know how unhelpful that is? Because I've heard loads of my friends, some of them are friends with their course mates, and they can help each other with coursework, they can help each other with upcoming exams that come up. I think I literally have 1 friend who does the same course as me. Wow. And do you know how difficult that is? Because because obviously you go to lectures, you don't speak to people in lectures.
No, because seminars can be really intimidating in the rooms. I mean, there are a lot of students in the rooms. And what usually happens is that during freshers, you really meet your flatmates and stick with your flatmates.
And you socialise with them.
But you're scared to kind of get out.
Exactly, because in first year, now I'm in third year, I speak in my seminars all the time. But when I was in first year, I didn't speak at all in my seminars because I was that shy girl in the corner of the room. I literally didn't speak. So I feel like if they have something like this, if we make more friends and be able to engage with our course mates more, it will be so much easier and so much more helpful.
What is really helpful at the moment is with Facebook specifically, there are group chats for everything. There are group chats, for example, if in accommodations for first years, I know for sure you're going to have a group chat with everyone that lives in this specific flat, on this specific block, or this specific house, or this specific court, or...
Before I came to university, I was already in a group chat.
You were ready? Me too!
I was ready, and it went from Facebook, we made it on WhatsApp. I actually had all these people's numbers before I started university.
Exactly, but then you never go beyond the phone number, who it's just a picture on your phone.
Yeah.
But, I mean, because we have all these group chats, so, you know, there is kind of that step forward. There is a step to be able to start and socialize with more people.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean makes a very smart idea, because his way of communication, because he wants clear communication, is to integrate this kind of modern aspect, which you can already see like taking off, because people are doing that before they come to university, before they come for their masters or postgraduates, they join group chats.
Exactly. So I like that with Sean, and they obviously had a unique thing, and Victoria also had a unique point, so which was the improvement of enhancement weeks, and which is understanding your course in more detail, because like I said, I didn't have friends on my course to know it detail. So if I had maybe this advancement week as well, I could have known more about my course.
Especially if you have activities. I mean, the university...
Make it fun.
The university is trying to make these events that are very inclusive. For example, the School of Arts, which is film, media, and art history, I believe. They made last year in Christmas. They made School of Arts ball.
We're going to move on to the debates now. So we're going to say bye here, but enjoy the rest of the debates, and I hope you like it.
See you later.
Hi, my name is Sean Kinney. I'm running for Vice President of Academic Experience. Hi, so my manifesto is all about bringing the students back into the union and making them engage and making them feel like they are welcome, connected and desired in the union, because it really is a students' union. I want to do that by making sure that everyone feels connected to their local environments first, and then I want to put them at the forefront of every decision we make as a union. And the same goes for Medway and all the other campuses we have. I want everyone to feel part of this.
My name's Vicky Saywood-Reid, and I'm running for VP Academic Experience. I'm all about student wellbeing. I want to make sure that all UKC lecturers are trained in wellbeing and that there's better awareness for ILPs. I want to make sure that Drury Hall Library is open 24/7 during term time. I want to make academic societies more accessible to everyone. I want to make sure that Enhancement Week is more subject specific, and I also want to make sure that every school has a common room and that within those schools there's a book borrowing scheme.
On an average day, the role of the union president has a lot of different facets. So to some extent I talk to students, to some extent I'm also the chair of the board, so I might have to talk about governance and talk about our committees within the union, and also do things like board effectiveness as well. But on a day-to-day it's a lot of meetings, so meeting internally with staff to work on campaigns, but also working with the university, and meeting with like the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellors, and talking about key issues that students are facing. It's really important that you vote. For years, people have fought for the right to vote, so if you have the right, might as well use it. At the end of the day, us as full-time officers, we affect your student experience. We're here to represent you. We are here to make sure that your time here at Kent is best as it can be. So you need to make sure that you vote for the people that you believe will do that for you. Vote for the people who you think will represent you and represent your interests, and ensure that you get the student experience that you want and that you deserve. So please go out, vote, and make your voice heard. You can vote online or in the venue. So when voting opens, you can go onto our website, click vote, and vote for the people that you want. Or go into venue, there's some screens and some computers set up there. You can easily just vote there as well. Candidates, election time is always stressful. It's always a lot of work, long nights, long days, but stay in there, don't give up, it'll be worth it in the end. And even if you don't win, the experience is amazing. So give your best and do your best for students. My funniest memory from my election campaigns has to be creating campaign videos. Sometimes these videos can be a bit wacky, a bit silly. Mine tend to include dancing in them. So doing that with people in public, because you'll sometimes see people like looking at you funny, but it also just allows you to mess around with your friends a little bit as well. First thing I did, obviously you're in the venue celebrating with your friends, you go through the interviews and stuff, but I think the first thing I did was tell my parents, because they were very proud of me. They were watching it live when it was on, and it was just great to kind of tell them that I did it, and it was my time, I guess. So yeah, just kind of making sure that I celebrate with my friends and family was important to me.
Hello, I'm Matthew Hudson and I'm joined with the VP Postgraduate Experience candidates. So we have Valeria, Floris and Laura, and they're going to each give us the introduction and the opening statements. So Valeria, do you want to start?
Sure. Good evening, my name is Valeria and I'm running to be Kent Union's first Vice President Postgraduate Experience. Some find it hard to believe that I've been at UKC for almost 5 years doing my undergraduate and postgraduate studies, and it's evident that the years I've spent here have been memorable, which is why I've put myself forward as a candidate for this position. In my time here, I've travelled the world with Kent Model United Nations and more recently served as a student rep for the School of Politics postgraduate taught students. The last role in particular served as a light bulb moment. Attending cross-faculty meetings, I understood that postgraduates lack substantial representation. We might be a thriving community, but rarely do our voices reach the volume of our undergraduate friends. It is essential that unity prevails, so that the 4,000 odd voices from PGT and PGR students are heard. My desire to seek a greater postgraduate voice forms the basis of my campaign, which is why I'm promoting the hashtag Let's Get Loud. My manifesto seeks to transform the postgraduate community from being disconnected to connected. I'd like to be the leading voice in this amazing postgraduate community, and I hope that you'll consider voting for Valeria. Thank you.
Hi, I am Floris, and I'm a fourth-year PhD math student. I think this election is all about getting a better voice for groups previously underrepresented in Kent Union, postgraduate and especially postgraduate research and European centres. And in my 2 years as a factor rep for sciences, I've been working very hard to represent those voices, working with GTAs and GTA contracts, working with the postgrad taught rep on timetabling, and working with Medway student on shuttle buses and PG accommodation.
Hi guys, my name is Laura Carlin, a Master's Neuropsychology student. I've thoroughly engaged myself with everything this university offers, from being in RAG for 4 years to various other committee roles, from your psychology peer mentor to being on various sports teams, and obviously that occasional Wednesday. So why have I gone for this role? 22% of students are postgrads, and across all my manifesto points, I hope that you can see how much I care for the engagement and the welfare of all those at each level of postgrad. I'm a loud and confident voice here to ensure postgrads are represented across all areas of this university, because at the end of the day, we're all 100% Kent. Let us all explore this new role together and keep a lookout for Laura the Explorer.
Excellent. So, first question, do we want to start with Laura this time? Let's work the way this way. This is a general question. If elected, will you prioritise lobbying the university to enhance the student experience at Kent rather than undertaking campaigns that simply further your own political agenda?
Sorry, can you just repeat that once more?
If elected, will you prioritise lobbying the university to enhance the student experience at Kent rather than undertaking campaigns that simply further your own political agenda?
Yeah, I completely get why people think that obviously people who are elected into this role will do to do with their own agenda. Part of my manifesto is about engagement and what is important for postgrad students. So I've suggested that postgrads need to be aware of everything this university offers, from sport to activities to course reps in that case. And I think it's really important that the university learn, especially the union, how to get postgrads involved. So, yeah.
Yes, so for me, I've never really had a political agenda when I started with my roles within Kent Union. When I started as a course rep, I just thought it was important to be represented, and that was mainly it. I didn't have an agenda, I didn't have a manifesto, and a lot of my manifesto is sort of educated by the experience I've gotten over the years. So mental health is something I got involved with once I discovered that mental health really differs within schools. A lot of the other points are just points I got from talking to students and thinking this is something that needs solved. So for me it's all about finding out what are the problems and solving those, not really anything I wanted to begin with.
For me, there's certainly campaigns and a lot of issues that I do care about quite a bit, and I've worked hard on several campaigns in the past, both as an undergrad and postgraduate. But for me, what's important is unity. I think that the postgraduate community really does need to come together. We have such an amazing group of people, and just to let them be more aware of the opportunities that the university offers, both to societies, but also just general events that they may find interesting for employability, to build up skills. I think some postgrads just simply aren't aware of services, and my goal is to ensure that these services are promoted great among the postgraduate community, and that we really do come together and ensure that our voices are heard. You know, we've got different needs to undergraduate students, it's clear, and I would like to make sure that those needs are represented through my own campaign and through my manifesto, and obviously the work that I will take up if I get elected to this position.
Okay, so now How do you envisage the role of VP Postgraduate Experience working alongside the KGSA? And if we start with Floris this time, and then we go to Valeria and then Laura.
So for me, I think the KGSA have been doing great work for postgraduates, especially on accommodation. They have been absolutely brilliant, really solving a lot of the problems in Wolf. And for me, it's one of the reasons I didn't feel obliged to put accommodation in my manifesto, because I know they're on it. So with a lot of things they're doing, I'm going to support them, make sure they have the support they need. If they need some muscle, political muscle, I'm going to give them that. But a lot of the things they're doing really good, so I don't feel any need to get more involved than necessary on that. Which do you want?
Either one.
Yeah. Yeah, the exact same. They do such an amazing job, especially again, like what they want across to the students. But it's given them more of a foundation to build and flourish. So in the union, you can get the message out a bit further and a bit louder. And I feel like they need that support in getting out a bit more than they already are.
I am very well aware that the KGSA opposed this position. However, I think that it's important that they are still very, very well involved in the work of the PG Postgraduate Experience. It is one of my manifesto points because I greatly support their work. I've been helped massively by the KGSA. I've met some amazing people through their varied events and so on. But I think there's more that can be done. And obviously the part of the union is that they can reach out to more people than they can reach out to, especially at campuses such as Medway, for example. And I would like to collaborate with them in the future. I think that they are essential to postgraduate experience and general satisfaction. And I know that there may be some, hiccups along the way, but hopefully we can resolve them and work together to ensure that we have a strong collaborative relationship for planning of future events and activities.
Actually, because you've now mentioned Medway, we're going to do some more specific questions to actually points in your manifesto. Sure. And one of your points actually relates to Medway, so I thought maybe that'd be a good point to pick it up. Because in your manifesto, you advocate for the Medway shuttle bus to run during the summer term. Considering how the Medway shuttle bus mostly is spaced during normal terms, how much demand is there for it to run during summer term?
So my plan is to obviously offer a trial period to see just how often it is used and obviously how many people actually use the shuttle. And then from there, go and sit down with obviously Kent Transport and to see if we want to increase the services, decrease services and so on. But obviously the Kent Graduate School does do a lot of events during the summer months as well, because obviously postgraduates are on campus writing their dissertations and so on. And I think there still needs to be a way to kind of get students in Medway here in the summer without having for them to pay for the train or bus, which obviously the costs can add up. And I just want to ensure that they're still involved. Obviously, there's not as many Medway students, postgraduates, that there are in Canterbury, but let's involve them more. Let's get the message across that, we've got some amazing events in the summer term and so on. Let's bring them over so then they don't feel isolated and left out of, involvement and engagement.
And Floris, in your manifesto, you mentioned how you've been campaigning for that for a while as faculty rep. So what would you do that would bring about change, considering you haven't managed it already?
This is something, so last year, when in my first year as a faculty rep, I went to Medway to just talk to the reps there and find out what they really want. And something that definitely came up was shuttle bus. So I proposed it in the graduate school board. They were very happy to endorse it, send it to Senate, but it turned out it was just costing far too much money to really be viable. So I took that feedback, and quite recently I went back to Medway to again see, okay, what can we do to maybe make it cost less? And what I found is I talked to a number of PGR students in Medway that day, and they all thought it was really, really important to have the shuttle bus. They needed to go back and forth. You've got people living in Canterbury and still doing their PhD in Medway. They want to go to events. You've got people with a split supervisory team with one supervisor in Medway, one in Canterbury. They want to visit those over the summer. So what I've been asking them, what can we do? And what they proposed is having a very limited schedule running. So every weekday, we would have one bus at 9 a.m. in the morning, one bus at 5 p.m. So you could still go, and hopefully that will cut the costs in such a way that it's financially viable for university to do.
And then, Laura, you mentioned about wanting to improve sports facilities and opportunities for Medway students. So are there any sports in particular that you'll be focusing on, or is it a more general improvement?
It's more a general improvement. I've spoken to the designated staff over there who's been actually employed by both their union, the joint union over there, and our union. Our sports, Kent Sport. So there is an improvement already being seen by already designating someone to that. They're basically trying to get the funding to increase sports facilities over there, both for basketball, outdoor racket sports, and five-a-side football. But I feel like the shuttle bus is such a great idea, obviously improving that. However, we're talking about Medway always coming over here. I think we need to improve Medway and give them the services that actually Kent students in Canterbury should want to go over there as well. And I feel like with having so many sports, you can take so many courses over there for sports. However, there's not the facilities to do it. So I feel like working alongside both whoever gets elected for student engagement, working with designated staff over there, I feel like it's just creating such a better community over Medway that if we get involved with their community, they'll get involved with ours.
And sticking with you, another area that you look at, which is some overlap between candidates regarding teaching, is in your manifesto you say you are reviewing the contract and conditions for postgraduates who teach. What sort of changes would you like, and are there any plans as to how you would implement the ideas generated by the review?
Honestly, I feel like this is such a huge issue, and I'm not saying that we're going to be able to sort it out in a year, but it's getting the university to realise how many, especially like the graduate teaching assistants, how many hours they're doing on marking and teaching, and especially those who are teaching things that they're actually not technically trained in, so like using specific equipment across like physics or like engineering, but it's making the school realise that some of your GTAs are doing over like 200 hours a year. That's taking 2 or 3 days out of their week from their own research, which they're getting marked on at the end of the day. And looking at other schools in comparison and maybe looking at some sort of collaboration going, okay, we need to teach this maths in engineering. Can the maths department, their GTAs, come over and help, and creating more of an environment and community of every single GTA and like extra teaching staff.
And then, Flourish, you've got a policy also relating to postgraduates and teaching, because you advocate in your manifesto for compensation for postgraduates who teach. And I was wondering what sort of compensation this would be and how you would go about getting it.
Okay, so this is really getting a bit into the nitty-gritty details. So you've got two kind of PhD students teaching in Kent. You've got graduate teaching assistants, GTAs. Those are on a contract, so they get paid a salary, and that's basically how they live while doing their PhD. But you also got people who don't have GTA contract. For example, they get funding from external source, but they still do some teaching. I, for example, are one of those people. So last year, the GTAs made a really big deal of making sure they don't work too much hours, and they sent a GTA delegation to the graduate school, which I was part of, and a lot got fixed for them. They're getting rid of the multiplier, which meant that for a contract hour, you would have so many hours of marking, which in the end usually would end up doing far more marking than you should. So for GTAs, there's already a lot happening, and I think I will be watching that next year. But for the non-GTA students, a lot of those changes don't go through. So I want to make sure that those get an equity in payment as well.
Thanks. And you also have some policies relating to graduate teaching, because in your manifesto you say that you would promote work-life balance amongst graduate teaching assistants. So what would you do to achieve this?
So this goes back to sort of what Laura said as well, is that I've been taught by GTAs at undergraduate, and I guess back then I was a bit naive. I didn't really understand that they had a lot of their own research and their own degrees to do, and funding commitments and other requirements that go into their work. And I think it's just so important that the university is aware that these people are humans. You know, there's only so much they can do in a day, and some of them are overworked. I mean, I've seen it in the school politics. People are, GTAs are teaching modules that they are not prepared in. So it's almost like they're a student of a module and at the same time trying to teach the module to second year, first year undergraduate students, which in my opinion is a bit unfair, because obviously they've got so many other deadlines on top of the hours that they teach. And I just think that the university should be more aware of the mental health of these individuals, because at the end of the day, they're students, but they're also kind of staff, so they've got a very in-between phase. And I would just like to ensure that they have enough time to obviously, do their commitments, but also, switch off and actually, preserve their mental health and relax and so on, because I know GTAs who will be in their offices until midnight. I personally don't think that's good for their own mental health and well-being.
Right, so we're going to start with Floris, and it's going to be a more general question, because you're running for a trustee position, it means that every member of Kent Union can vote regardless of their academic stage, which means that undergraduate students can vote for this role. So what would you say to them? Because of course you're trying to connect with a demographic that you're not actually directly representing.
So I think this role will do a lot for undergrads as well. So first of all, you might be an undergrad thinking about doing a postgrad at Kent. In that case, you should definitely vote. But a lot of the problems PGT students face, undergraduates have as well, but in a limited manner. So postgrad torts, they only have a year. So if something is going wrong, it affects their education a lot. For example, support before you arrive. Right now, they have to pick modules without being able to talk to an academic advisor about it. And if they pick wrong, they're just not getting the right education. Increasing that support for postgrads is very important, but I would say it would also translate to undergrad students. Getting better support before they arrive is also good for them. Another point is January exams. For postgrad taught students, this is very important because it gives a feedback point in the middle of the year. But I would argue that also for undergrads, it would be a great thing to have. And as well, we just talked about teaching. A lot of the teaching is in the end done by PhD students, so improving support for them means they'll be better able to teach you. So there's a lot of things that really affect undergrads within this role.
Honestly, I could just answer this so honestly and be like, I didn't know I was going to do a postgrad. I didn't know what I needed. And if there was someone I could vote in that had that voice for you before you even knew you needed that voice, that's what I feel like we're all here to do. And I feel like this is such a good role to do it. Like, one of my points in my manifesto is about academic support. And it's not just for those currently in a postgrad role, it's for those who want to go into a postgrad role. So if you're thinking about going into a postgrad role, how would you feel if you had a chance to talk to someone currently in a master's or a PhD? That's something I'm interested in sorting out, is getting, like the current buddy system or the psychology peer mentor kind of system going on, is creating that support system from the undergrads to postgrads.
So personally for me, the School of Politics actually did organise a meet current postgrads to try and lure current Kent students to pursue further politics postgraduate programs, which I thought was fantastic. We actually got a really good turnout that day, and it was obviously nice to answer some very specific questions that people might have about not just studying politics at Kent at master's level, but just generally postgraduate life. So that was great, and hopefully more schools follow suit. I'm not personally sure if other schools do have similar events, but I thought it would be brilliant. Again, I was an undergraduate here as well. I know what you guys go through, and I think that postgraduate students, to have somebody representing them at Kent Union is fantastic. And obviously this is a good sign to anybody who's even coming to Kent from outside. So look at external recruitment of students. They might actually look at Kent Union and say, oh, there's a postgraduate representative on their sabbatical officer team. That's giving me a good hint that, if I've got a problem, I know who to talk to directly at the union. And obviously the union plays such a massive role in student engagement and just generally, looking after students, that it's great that there is somebody that they can actually talk to directly. And obviously this is a good sign for people coming from outside of Kent to know that there is that opportunity. And even within Kent, you've got somebody to talk to at Kent Union, and whoever that may be out of the three of us, we've all got fantastic points, and, we're there for you. Just so future postgrads know.
Right, and now we're going to go to some more specific to your manifesto again, and we'll start with you, Valeria. So in your manifesto, you advocate for more postgraduate study space. Considering the amount of study space dedicated to postgrads already, why do you need more?
So the proposal, I'm aware that the Senate building is now opening as a postgraduate study hub. This was something that should have happened a while ago. But obviously there were delays, and I understand that. I think it's a great initiative, but the library is not big enough for everyone on campus. And I know for a fact that Wolf College has become quite a loud place recently. That's not, after a certain time of the evening, you're not really going to want to stay there. Also, the common room in Wolf College was never actually intended to be a study room. So students go in there to play games, have pre-drinks and so on. It's not a study space. I would also like to advocate for more PGR specific study space. I think that especially within schools, I think that would be fantastic. I know my own two schools, like law and politics, don't really have much of that available, but I think it would be good so PGRs have a chance. And just a place where they can, work together, have meetings and have some downtime and so on. And just more dedicated postgraduate study space in the schools. There are many empty buildings in like various academic buildings, so let's maximize the use of that space rather than leaving them empty and sort of abandoned and unused. I think that they can definitely be converted into more like hubs and just more like zones where people can have a few moments to switch off and then go to their lectures.
Before we pass it on, could you explain the word PGR? Because I realise that not everybody...
Postgraduate research students.
Because I realise not everyone watching will understand what it means.
Postgraduate research students.
Excellent, thank you. So can we now go to Laura? Another kind of precise question to your manifesto. In your manifesto, you say you will engage with all student societies. However, not all societies may have postgraduate members. How will you be representing postgraduate students by engaging with these societies, and how will this work alongside VP student engagement?
Yep, really huge point for me, from being someone who's done many activities or sports societies, is it's really important for the well-being and the mental health and even things like time management for postgrads to be involved in and engage with such sports and activities. Working alongside societies is just getting this information out to students. So think before summer, during summer, before students even start first term, they shouldn't have to start term, especially when you've come from a different university, and go, okay, I've got to go to Freshers' Fair, I've got to, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. You want to go, just before they get here, this is everything we've got to offer, and this is how much it costs. Be honest with people and make them aware of everything Union have to offer as well. How many postgrads know that there's a fund that can allow people to access sport, access activities. If many postgrads knew that, I'm sure many of my friends who have come from different universities especially would be more involved. And I think getting that information from sports and activities and what they can offer, and is there any more support from Union, from the sports society or activities? It's just getting those members in, and it's making sports and activities more inclusive to every single person, not just postgrads and not just undergrads.
And talking about kind of preparing in advance for Floris, in your manifesto you say you would have a system where students can talk to academics before picking their modules. Who would students actually be talking to if this took place, and what would be done to help academics with lots of students when they're trying to respond to these queries?
So this is something, partly this will be need to find out. And this might be different from school to school. In general, and this comes back to what I said before, as a postgrad taught, you have a lot of choices within what module you pick. And if you pick a wrong module, you can't switch. So you need to be able to pick the right modules, and sometimes you just need to be able to talk to an academic to figure out which module you pick. I think a lot of the master students have a specific supervisor, especially when they're going to do a thesis. That might be an option. It might also be that a school just has a couple of academics who would be able to respond to requests. This, I think, could very well be school-specific and figure out what works best for those schools.
Right, and then more general kind of question. So how are you going to ensure that when you're campaigning for various issues for postgraduate students, you don't kind of upset people or kind of tread on other people's toes when you're trying to campaign for an issue? Because quite a few of the policies you've outlined here overlap with student engagement, or they overlap with education or welfare. So how you make sure that when you're trying to get these for postgraduate students, you're not disadvantaging undergraduates or making it harder for those SABs to get their policies through?
So for me, I think this is it's part to do with collaboration. The thing is that the postgraduate experience is very different than the undergrad experience. Postgrad talks only have 1 year. Postgrad research is even far more different. You don't do modules, you just do research, you might even do some teaching. So a lot of the general policies that Kent Union has been working on don't necessarily work for postgrads students. So it's not about disadvantaging undergraduate students, it's about finding ways to make systems work, not just for the undergrad students, but also for postgrad students. And that might require some changes. But if I would be working with it on the same issue as other vice presidents, collaborate, make sure it works for everyone.
And then, do you want to take it, Valerie?
Sure. Ultimately, I'm aware that there will be a lot of, back and forth between various positions, and ultimately the Vice President Academic Engagement and Vice President, activities and so on, they will have similar, we can share ideas, and I do believe in the power of collaboration, teamwork. They may have a more undergraduate specific agenda, we will have a more postgrad specific agenda, but I think we can find a common ground on issues, and I'm looking forward to, if I do get elected, to working with whoever takes charge of the other roles to see if we can come up with a strategy that does benefit the wider student population. So, looking at what postgraduates want and what undergraduates want, and then look from there. Ultimately, the future Vice President Academic Experience will have obviously will be able to provide a little bit more education-based advice and support and expertise. That's fine. I think that's brilliant to have, and it's good that we as future sabbatical officers can then exchange ideas and come up with something that is good and does work for a lot of people. And it's obviously good to have now the postgraduate voice, because in the past I feel that a lot of Kent Union policies that were released did not necessarily affect postgraduates or did not really fit them in well. But I think now having this perspective will change things a bit and make it more inclusive for everyone, not just one specific group of students at this university. Can you just read the question once more for me?
Okay, so basically, how are you going to ensure that you don't upset people when you kind of overlap between the various different other sabbatical roles when you're campaigning for various bits, and you don't disadvantage other students?
Yeah, of course. Do you know what? This is a brand new role. We don't know which way it's going to go. It's all about setting that foundation for this role to work in the future, and I don't believe we can do that without knowing what the other roles do, and even collaborating with them and going, you do this in one way, amazing, how can we reach the postgrads and get them involved or help their well-being, help this and that. Collaboration is so important, and I don't think, we all care so much, no matter who gets elected across any position. I think everyone's willing to be transparent with each other and make it work regardless. And I don't think that if just because we're postgrad focused, that we can't say that originally that was undergrad focused maybe, because it's easier, because most people going from an undergrad will go, my experience, this is what I understand from my experience, let's make that work. We've now got this new perspective, and we can come in and go, look, this can be done this way. You do it that way. Let's find a way together, and let's make this work together.
Right, and another general question, but we'll start with Laura. You've all highlighted the various different sorts of postgrad. So considering the wide variety of postgrad students, like research and doctorate and whatnot, what are you going to do to ensure that you represent all of them with their various different needs?
It's really hard, and I'm going to be really honest, because coming from a master's student, I was trying to understand all these roles. So I've reached out to various people, of course, GTAs, postgrad research, postgrad taught. And it is really hard because they have completely different areas of focus. But if you've got an idea, whether it be welfare or academic support or just reviewing your contracts, I feel like there is a way we can bring them all in. And if you're honest, and if they're willing to welcome us as a part of the union, then I don't think it'll be that hard to include everyone. Obviously, I think it's going to be hard the first year. As I've already said, we need to set a foundation for this role to work, and nothing's going to happen. We can't say for sure, that everything's going to happen in a year, But if we fight and we get people on board as soon as possible by being transparent, by being that trustworthy voice and actually speaking out for them, I don't think it'll be that hard to get everyone involved.
Yes, so for me, it is a lot about talking to people. So I think the faculty reps, the postgrad taught faculty reps and the postgrad research faculty reps will be very important to talk to. Talking to KGSA, who get a lot of feedback as well. And what I'm definitely planning to do, because PGR students can be very hard to get feedback from, just go around, go into an office and have a quick chat whenever I have time. For the European centers, again, I'm very much planning to go to at least Paris and Brussels to talk to students there and try to understand what are your problems, what can I do to solve them. For postgrad taught groups, have focus groups. I got a lot also from the graduate school, who has a lot of information on what postgrads are struggling with. So it's a lot about talking to people and making sure you get input from everyone.
Again, this ultimately, whoever gets this position, you will be the one responsible for building the foundations for this position, at least for the first academic year, and then if not for future academic years. So obviously, we've all got fantastic ideas and so on, but I think it's you making yourself known to these students as well, like being visible, opening a sabbatical officer only Facebook account or using your email and just, handing that out, contacting the heads of the schools and just letting them know, hi, I'm the VP Postgraduate Experience, please reach out or so on. And usually some schools will have a list of the GTAs on their student guides on Moodle or so on, so you can contact them through there as well, which is good. But I think that's why I really want to try and bring this community together. I think that for far too long, the postgraduate community, be it talk, be it research, have been a bit disconnected, a bit like, ooh, who do we talk to? Well, who do we, if we're stressed, we're anxious, who do we go to? And, to report problems. Obviously, the KGSA have done brilliantly at collecting problems and organizing focus groups and sending out emails, questionnaires, and so on. But there's more that can be done, clearly, and I'm quite a driven person, and I'm committed to ensuring that postgraduates do have a relatively smooth experience at Kent and leave Kent with the best of memories. And I do want to talk to you. I want to get to know as many of you as possible if I'm elected, and just to have a good relationship, have a chat, come over to my office, whatever, have an informal chat, let me know how you're doing, because I want to know how you're doing and if you're okay or not.
And now, going into detailed manifestos, and we'll start with you, Valeria. In your manifesto, you say you would introduce monthly postgrad chats. Where would these take place and what would be discussed?
So these would most likely take place in Wolf College, seeing that that's the postgraduate hub, I guess, on this campus. If not, we would be on the third floor of Cornwallis East, which is obviously the graduate school offices. And I think initially the first chats would allow postgraduates to actually meet in person some of the members of the support services on campus. So people from the advice center, student support wellbeing, the medical center, and so on. Because again, some postgraduates aren't really aware that these services exist on campus. They seem to go just directly to the medical center, but there's more to that. There's actually some amazing services at this university, and sometimes it helps to actually see the person, in person, rather than just, hearing the name and getting the email. So things like that. Also to have sessions that look at exam tips, exam techniques, which I think would be quite good. And so, we know postgraduates go through an awful lot in a very short space of time. We're quite buried under the books for most of the year. And even just to have an informal coffee morning, just to talk about issues that, they're going through, things like accommodation and parking and other things that they would be open about. And just so I can have a connection with these people. And because at the end of the day, the postgraduate experience will be representing this group of people. So it'd be nice also to know who they are and what they do and get to know them a bit better.
And then if we go to Laura, because you also mentioned something similar to this, because in your manifesto you advocate for coffee mornings for postgrads. So what would these involve and where would these take place?
Yeah, so I spoke to someone who was a postgrad student here a few years ago, and they suggested that Origins did some coffee mornings. It was like a kind of informal, come along, like just before you start teaching, you start researching for the day, whatever your situation be, come along. We've also had it in the library cafe before, so people have set up coffee and croissant mornings. Not gonna lie, something free gets people there, but that wouldn't be priority. I don't know if that's something that we'd be able to do on a regular basis. But it's creating that community between every single person of every level of postgrad. And as I've spoken before, like, engagement is so important, and getting people along to something, like, and it's really hard because I go back and forth with myself and I go, how can you get people engaged by getting them to something? As in, like, so I'm putting a coffee morning on. How are you getting people engaged to come to that coffee morning? And it's this back and forth argument, but it's starting early and going like, okay, like, we've got this idea, like, come along to our coffee morning, set up this. But obviously when you say, like, where would this be? We've got access to the media centre, we've got Wolf, we've got Library Cafe. Get Union involved, come on Library Cafe, like, let's have a coffee morning. But yeah.
Listen, now, Floris, the question for you, specific to kind of your manifesto and what you've done, when the UEC held their vote on the creation of the role of VP Postgraduate Experience, you printed off the open letter you wrote and brought it to the meeting without informing others, meaning the open letter from the KGSA, which had the counterview, was not provided as they were unaware that they needed to. What would you say to those that criticise your actions and the way you campaigned for the creation of this role?
So for me, I looked at this role and I definitely believe it is a very important role to have, and it will improve postgrad representation at the union. So especially when I found out that KGSA was opposing the role, I felt it upon myself that it's important to also get the other side of the story, that it's not just all postgraduate students are against the role. There's also a significant number of postgraduates for the role. So I wrote an open letter to the Kent Exec Committee, trying to promote the role and saying there are a lot of postgraduates in favor of this role. And it's a bit silly to write an open letter and then not give it to the Kent Exec Committee. So I took it upon myself to bring this letter so I could distribute it. I do not feel I had a responsibility to do the same for the KGSA. If they had wanted to, they could have printed out the letter and handed it out during the meeting. I did not know they were not planning on doing this. I did not intend to create an unequal situation. I just wanted to make sure that the voices of the people I was representing there who wanted this role would get heard.
Excellent, thank you. Considering the two of you have mentioned kind of student engagement, one of the questions we've got that kind of come in from the union is student engagement with Kent Union is often incredibly low. What would you do to maximise student engagement to ensure Kent Union represents and reaches as many students as possible? And if we start with Floris, because you've got the mic.
Yes, so I think especially focusing on postgraduate students, as those would be the one I have the most focus on. I think part of this is just already having this role and showing we care about postgrad issues hopefully will increase postgraduate engagements. I think for PGR students it's also important to just go to them, because being a PGR student myself, I know you do not have a lot of time to do activities while you're doing your PhD. So going out to them just to have this first chat and show that there's a Kent Union that really cares about them, I think will do a great good to get the engagement from the PGR community. Same for European centres. Let's go there and talk to those people to show, yes, we care about it and do vote, because if you get active, Kent Union will start to care.
And Valeria, do you want to take that question?
Yeah. I think it's also important that postgraduates are, I guess, more aware of the work of Kent Union. Again, we're not really well informed, at least the people that I know of. They don't really know what Kent Union does. They just think, oh, it's okay, it's supposed to represent us. That's really it. But no, actually, Kent Union does a lot more than that. You know, they obviously manage all the societies, volunteering, and, you know, the advice center and so many other activities. And I think it's just important that the word gets out about what Kent Union does and what it can do to improve your student experience at this university. And obviously having a postgraduate role there will ensure that you at least have your own representative in the sabbatical officer board, which is fantastic, obviously, for postgraduate voice and just general representation at this university. I think also with regards to societies is that some PGT students I've spoken to have basically come out and said, we don't have time to join a society, like we're too, inundated with studying and deadlines, but you can make time for that, trust me. I mean, I've done it, I'm part of like 4 societies. But I think, again, it's just a matter of promotion and just like, using social media, because obviously pretty much everyone is connected on social media. Just, put society information, use the KJSA as also a good sort of channel to promote student activities, events. Like we do promote quite a lot of events on the postgraduate Facebook group as is. So that's quite good, and I think that more should come of that, even from societies. I think society presidents can also join the group in future, so at least like they are creating more of a connection with another set of students at this university as well.
And if you go to Laura.
Sorry, really quickly, I'm just going to disagree with the time thing. Like, we've just been talking about reviewing the contracts of people that don't have time because they're teaching or they're marking. But if we work on reviewing people's contracts, then maybe we can find time for people to be joining societies and building this community. Things like Union, you send out your amazing newsletters and you share our events on Facebook. It's incredible. What about postgrads? Let's put postgrad in there too. Maybe it's because we never had this role before. Like, who knows? But at the same time, we need to ensure that postgrads are being represented across both sport and activity for us to continue putting it out there about postgrads. Like, if postgrads don't feel that they're being represented in something, then maybe they won't feel comfortable joining. Like, I joined new societies this year because I've been at this university. I didn't feel uncomfortable doing anything new. But people who've come from different universities, it's getting out there. Like I said before, I'd love to put newsletters out there before students have even come here in September, telling them everything available to them. Anyone can get involved. Even if it's 6 weeks after Freshers Week, you still want to join, you join. And it's ensuring that every point in our manifesto is being met in the sense of engagement across sports and activities is incredibly important for your welfare. And I find we can't focus on that until we look at reviewing contracts. And if we look at everything we've discussed today, like, I feel like that can naturally increase. And at the same time, involving student engagement. Whoever gets student engagement, bringing them in and going, let's get on this. Like, let's get it out there to both your students you want to get to and the students we want to get to. So let's collab it all and make this work as one university and one community.
Right, sticking with you, Laura, this is a general question. This will probably be quite a quirky, fun one, but also quite a hard one. If you could only achieve one thing in the role of VP Postgraduate Experience, what would you want that one thing to be?
Oh, I'm going to go engagement because, like I've said before, everything else obviously is so important. I've obviously just gone on about how we can't get people to get engaged without looking at, like, reviewing their contracts. And I feel like we can say one thing, but we can achieve that while achieving little things along the way. But I say engagement because, like I said before, it increases your well-being, it increases your mental state. And then this creating a community, not just for postgrads, but postgrads and undergrads. Like the amount of people I've met this year in various societies who are undergrads. And it's building that kind of bridge between undergrads and postgrads, creating this community and going, like, I can help you get there, or you can help me get somewhere. Like, it's just working all together, so I would have to go engagement.
And Floris?
Yes, so for me it's definitely mental health. Last year I did a big review on PGR mental health support, and I went all over the university talking to staff that provided support in schools and talking to students to find out what are their needs and how it's working in their school. And it was a very amazing experience, and I've talked to a lot of students who were struggling and just didn't get the support they need, which it was sometimes quite tough to do, actually. And improving that is going to be very, very important for me.
I'm going to just jump out and say that one thing that I'd really like to improve and hope to achieve if I'm elected in this role is really develop a working relationship with the KGSA, because I really do believe in what they do, and they've helped so many people settle in at this university. There is more that they can do, and I think that having the VP postgrad experience there, I do hope that there will be regular communication between the two roles, and that we can, focus on planning better events, maybe even focus on off-campus events, in particularly, you can say times where you think the postgraduates might actually need a bit of a break, even just a bus trip to Whitstable or so on, just something that they can, focus on recharging their batteries and getting ready to start a new week fresh, with a fresh mind. And again, one of my priorities is just to ensure that their status is protected, because they're a fantastic group of volunteers, really, that they put their heart and soul into improving postgraduate experience at Kent. And obviously Kent Union can reach out to more people than they can, especially at other centres such as Medway, to let them come here and obviously tell them about their events and bring people together and just, have a good night, wherever it may be, if it's off campus, touring, having a look at the nightlife in Canterbury, even just watching a film and having something to eat. I think that just shows that we're a community rather than being disconnected, few individuals spread across, a few campuses. And I do hope, I know that this is a very difficult thing to achieve, especially with their opposition to the creation of the role, but I do really value their work, and I hope that some kind of relationship can come out of it.
Right, sticking with you, Valeria, in your manifesto you say you want postgrads to have car parking spaces. But where would the spaces be, and how will you ensure that their creation is not to the detriment of staff and disabled students?
So this goes back to I don't think this point necessarily just affects postgraduates, but I think also undergraduates, especially when the university revised the parking permits on campus. Obviously a lot of postgraduate commuters, because there are some, I've spoken to a few, they're paying quite a lot of money for parking permits, but yet find themselves, walking, a couple kilometers, having to park at the edge of Parkwood. And obviously not all of them, you could say, are able, so they find it difficult to walk long distances. And that is problematic. I would advocate for having a more central parking space on campus for postgraduates, and just for them to have an area they can park with the other student commuters, because there are definitely student commuters coming from, PhD students, GTAs, you name it. And I think that it's also good that, especially for those that might be disabled, don't have to walk that far to actually get to their classes, because that can be problematic. And obviously I do care about you, and I understand what you're going through, and you shouldn't have to be put in that situation.
And if we go to a specific question for Floris, right, in your manifesto you advocate for there to be January exams. How would you work with VP academic experience around this, and how would they be organised to fit around when term normally starts?
Working with VP academic experience seems quite logical. I think that's just something, once elected, let's have a chat and see how to bring this about. As far as the structure goes, so I can go back to my own experience being a master's student, which was all the way back in Leiden in the Netherlands, where we did have January exams. So after your autumn terms, which ends in about December, you would have a Christmas break, and then in the January month you would have exams for your autumn modules, which is a good feedback moment and sort of makes sense to me, having your knowledge checked just after you have done the module. So it would be a bit of shifting around, but it shouldn't take too much issue. A lot of other universities do this, and it shouldn't be too hard to adopt their model.
And then Laura, well, specifically for you, in your manifesto you advocate for a support scheme for postgraduate students, but what would this actually involve?
Yeah, so this university's shown really well with the students and the amount of volunteer hours we put in and stuff. So I was looking at the buddy scheme that goes on and the peer mentor scheme that goes on, and looking at whether students can opt in or out of being said peer mentor. Whether it be someone at PhD level opts in to overlook someone in a master's, or whether the master's students guide someone from undergrad coming into master's potentially. It's just creating that other level for support, because dissertation leaders can't always jump in, academic support can't always jump in. So why not put that level of someone who knows already what they're doing and can help in that sense?
And now a more general question for all three of you. So there are postgraduate students across the various satellite campuses. So how would you work about representing students that could be in Rome, Athens, Paris or Brussels? And we'll start with Laura.
So how can we represent students over there as well?
Yeah, in Europe.
Honestly, it's a really hard one for me. Like, as I spoke earlier about setting this foundation for this role, I feel like we really need to make it work here first and work in making that community here, making that community over in Medway, and then reaching out. I'm not saying let's ignore them, but I think focusing too much on Canterbury, Medway, Brussels, Paris, I think we're going, oh my God, we're never going to hit all our points. We're never going to set this foundation. Let's be real. Let's be honest with ourselves and go, let's take this one step at a time and hope that you create something that in future years, say, I got elected in this year. Amazing. I'll work on this. Hopefully you then inspire the next person who wants to go for this role to then carry on that work and you then reach, okay, amazing. We've created this community with Medway. Let's now hit Brussels and Paris.
So yeah, for me, I already sort of answered this question a little bit. I do think it's very important to get involved with European centres. Previously, they tended to fall under the president of Kent Union, who naturally did not have time to work with on this. And so what I'm planning to do is fairly in the beginning of my, when I get elected, I will go and visit at least Paris and Brussels to have a chat with them. And what I found is, same with Medway when I was a factory rep, one visit is already enough to sort of get an idea of what the problems they are facing. And then whenever it comes up, you'll be able to represent them fairly and well. So I think it's just one visit and it will already be a big improvement to representing European centres.
Of course, Canterbury and Medway should be the priorities, trying to get together postgraduate communities of both of those centres a bit more united. However, I think that it's still important for whoever does get this role to still make contact with the postgraduate community up in Brussels and Paris, especially, but also obviously the smaller centres in Rome and Athens. I've got friends who are studying in Brussels and Paris, and I know they've got very different postgraduate needs to the ones here. But I mean, obviously, reaching out to them, I wouldn't say it's a massive priority, but of course we shouldn't neglect them because they are still University of Kent students. You know, this position will ultimately represent their needs as well. Even just to contact the heads of schools there and just send out an email or, you know, post on if they've got a social media group, just to introduce yourself, just to tell them, hi, by the way, I'm the Kent Union VP Postgraduate Experience. If you've got any queries or you just want to find out more a little bit about Kent Union policies and what we can do for you, then, you know, send me a message, send me an email, and I'll try my best to answer your query or direct it to somebody who can. Just so at least like you're visible there as well. And of course, if there is time permitting in the schedule to actually go up to Brussels and Paris and meet some students, you know, have an informal chat, just present yourself in a more personal manner, then I think that's fantastic because, you know, they are still University of Kent students. I think some people might forget that, but they're still important to general, and obviously being all postgraduates there, it's important to still recognize them as part of the greater University of Kent student community rather than just isolating them in mainland Europe. But obviously Canterbury and Medway would be my personal priorities, but obviously still make contact with the people out there to let them know that we still care about you, we love you, and we want to know what your issues are and how we can help you.
Right, so do you now want to do closing statements? And we'll start with Valeria.
Sure. Hello again. I don't want to spend too long rambling in this closing speech, as I'm sure some of you will be eager for the next debate. But I would like to say a few words on what I can personally bring to this role and my aspirations for this exciting position. My time at university has been largely successful. I've made friends for life, stepped out of my comfort zone on more than one occasion, and worked hard on creating an awareness of issues close to my heart. However, not everything was smooth sailing. There have been some notable downs, but I'm forever grateful to all the fantastic services available at Kent, something more students should take advantage of. This role is somewhat my last hurrah at UKC, and I hope to be able to implement creative solutions to problems concerning postgraduate experience and general satisfaction. Dear Kent postgrads, I've generally had the best time being part of your community for the past 2 years. However, now I aspire to lead you and allow you to have a stronger say on policies that may affect your experience at Kent. I want to show you that I care about you, your welfare, your teaching contracts, and anything else really. The Kent postgraduate community have allowed me to get a better grasp on fundamental university issues, and now I'm ready to give back to you. You can pour your trust in me, and I will do everything in my power to ensure you have the best year or best years at Kent. And once more, postgrads, let's get loud. We've been quiet for too long, and our voices deserve to be heard. I do hope you'll consider voting for Valeria, and wish you all a good night. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. So for me, this role will again be all about representing those people who have been underrepresented, and that's what I'll be planning to do. I'll be out there with you, talking to you, especially again against PGR students. I've got a lot of experience in my role already. I've been a master's student, I've been a PhD student, I've been campaigning for you for 2 years now, and I hope you trust me enough to give me this responsibility.
So basically, I just really hope that throughout this debating session, I've been able to put forward my passion for this role. This university knows there needs to be change regarding postgrads experience. So let's explore this together and create an amazing foundation for this role to work, not just next year, but in future years as well. Remember, Laura the Explorer.
Well, thank you, Laura Flores and Valeria. Sorry, I muddled you up there. So we're going to be playing a video now, which is going to be Aaron's going to be explaining how to vote and why you should vote, which is all very important. And then we're going to have the academic experience candidates in, and they're going to be trying to tell you why you should vote for them. So thank you for coming in, and we will now go over to that video with Aaron Thompson telling us all we need to know about voting.
You can vote online or in the venue. So when voting opens, you can go onto our website, click vote, and vote for the people that you want. Or go into venue. There's some screens and some computers set up there. You can easily just vote there as well. It's really important that you vote. For years, people have fought for the right to vote, so if you have the right, might as well use it. At the end of the day, us as full-time officers, we affect your student experience. We're here to represent you. We're here to make sure that your time here at Kent is best as it can be. So you need to make sure that you vote for the people that you believe will do that for you. Vote for the people who you think will represent you and represent your interests, and ensure that you get the student experience that you want and that you deserve. So please go out, vote, and make your voice heard. Candidates, election time is always stressful. It's always a lot of work, long nights, long days, but stay in there, don't give up. It'll be worth it in the end. And even if you don't win, the experience is amazing. So give your best and do your best for students. On an average day, the role of the union president has a lot of different facets. So to some extent I talk to students, to some extent I'm also the chair of the board, so I might have to talk about governance and talk about our committees within the union, and also do things like board effectiveness as well. But on a day-to-day it's a lot of meetings, so meeting internally with staff to work on campaigns, but also working with the university, and meeting with like the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellors, and talking about key issues that students are facing.
Hello, so I'm now joined with the candidates for academic experience. So we have Sean Kinnear and Victoria Soward-Raid. And I apologise if I've butchered your names. Hopefully it wasn't too terrible. So I thought I'd start with the kind of overall questions. And one thing I found interesting is you've actually got an overlap in one of your manifesto points. I thought maybe it'd be interesting to explore that one first and then get a bit of debate going. So in your manifestos, you both say there should be common rooms for all schools, but where would they be, and would they be linked to the university or union? Also, what would you do about shared common rooms like the one in Rutherford between history and politics? And if we start with you.
Yeah. So I know at the minute there are currently common rooms in, as you say, Rutherford for history and politics. There's one in Seckel for the department there, and there's also one in, I believe, the English school as well. So there's quite a few already, and I know that Stuart's done a lot this year to work on getting more common rooms, and I think the arts has got one too now. But the ones in shared spaces, for example, to answer your question, are a little bit more difficult to police, because I know my manifesto point concentrates on adding a book borrowing scheme or a reference material scheme, but it's slightly more difficult to police in that sort of sense because it is shared. But a lot of these common rooms you have to tap your card to get into. So it sort of creates a sense of community for the schools that the common rooms are in. However, it doesn't always necessarily mean that that can't be a shared space for all students to use. At the moment, they are belonging to the university. That's not to say that we can't have common rooms which are owned by the union, but I feel like having them owned by the university would make it easier to police on who's coming in and who's going out, especially if they're running alongside the schools that are already there.
Yeah, to add to that, I think it's important that they are linked to the Kent IDs, so you can use that to get in, because one of the big benefits about having these student spaces and common rooms is that you can have your community's space, which is why it does annoy me a little bit that we had to share one of them. But I want to avoid that in the future, and I want to, if there's any sharing, I want them to be shared with people who have something in common with you. So if you're in the same faculty or if you're in the same school, ideally. The beautiful thing about having these student spaces is not only that they're a great place for people to just be, and between lectures when they have to commute, there's a real advantage in that. But also that you can use them to build your community and have events, organize things that matter to you, and not have to look for spaces which were, otherwise unavailable. So as far as the questions go, I believe it was university owned and as unshared as possible to make it your community based, because obviously that's one of my main manifesto points, is being able to build those communities so people feel more connected with where they are at the university, which I think is really important for your academic experience.
And we're going to stick with a question for voting. We'll start with Sean this time. Now, as much as you've got things in your manifesto, there's also certain things that your manifestos are missing. And there's one area that neither of you have touched on. And neither of you mention ILPs in your manifesto. So I was wondering, does this mean that ILPs are not an important issue for you both?
No, of course I don't think that's, and I think you'll find for both of us that we'll tell you that no, ILPs matter. As a psychology student, I have quite a lot of experience on that, and many of my friends have ILPs. They need them. They have great use of them. They don't always need them, but they're nice to have. When you have that option, and when you know that you can fall back on something, and you know that you'll have extra time if you get stressed for all the different things that can happen, it's just really nice to have. But I think if there's a reason for it not being in my manifesto, is because it's already there. There's a system there in place, and while I think it can obviously be built upon, improved, made clearer, more accessible, more available to people who don't know that it exists, it's not necessarily one of the things that had to go on the 6 points we were allowed, simply because it's already sort of taking place.
As part of one of my manifesto points about better academic wellbeing support, I have included in that a better awareness of ILPs, just because I know for a lot of subjects, sometimes when there's anonymous marking, some ILPs are completely ignored. And so it sort of does affect students' wellbeing, I feel, especially in terms of like their academic support systems that are there or aren't there. However, there does need to be a better awareness for sure. And like Sean said, they are already there, and they are doing, and I know a lot of the departments are doing a lot to help those people, but I just feel there needs to be a scheme or something in place to push them forward to the forefront of people's minds, just because they're sort of forgotten about a lot, and that's not necessarily something that is beneficial to any student, especially those with ILPs.
Following on the ILP thread, there was a accessibility forum at Kent last term. I don't think either of you were in attendance, where they discussed various issues, various disabled students, and one of the things they actually highlighted was, while there were all these ILPs in place, they were actually rarely enforced, and this was one issue they felt that the union would actually be failing them on, because while they were talking there, it was kind of a bit too late and they were still needing more support. So what would you do to make sure that ILPs are actually enforced by the schools rather than just written and ignored?
Yeah, so I want to bring in more training, especially for lecturers, for academic advisors, because they are the ones who the first hurdle will be at. And if they're better trained on it and they're better versed on what ILPs mean, what different ILPs can do for different people, then they're more likely to be able to understand the student's perspective. And if they can do that and then talk to the students and talk them through their essays or their exams or whatever it is they need their help on, then the students will feel better supported. And I feel like if there's that training there and if there's that push that goes above the lecturers and the academic advisors, and that it's sort of coming down the system, then the students will feel supported, because it will be that university-wide push. It won't just be specific departments or specific schools. It will be that training that is universal and will give all students the adequate help, really.
Following on to that, speaking of specific schools, I can mostly speak for my school of psychology. And I think you'd almost expect there to be maybe a bit more focus on this sort of element of the academic experience in that sort of environment. But I think what we have in the School of Psychology works better than what I hear from other schools. So I do have to specify that. When I talk about ILPs, I really am talking about it from the perspective of watching them work. And this comes from the understanding that you have from, almost all teachers and staff members of psychology have some sort of experience with learning about it. And so we're aware of the different things that can affect a person. And this means that when you walk in, you've kind of had the training already that she's speaking of. And so watching how that works for psychology is certainly something that should and could be applied on a greater level. Obviously, maybe not to the extent, seeing as psychology people will just have so much experience with learning about these different kinds of conditions. But there's certainly a middle ground somewhere where we can make it work.
Right, so one concern that was expressed, kind of going into kind of more nitty-gritty and kind of ties into one of the successes from previous VP educations, which is kind of the before to this role, was how lecture capture is great. However, it doesn't have closed captions, which means that if you're somebody with hearing difficulties, you've basically got a recording, but you can't actually lip read because they've got the PowerPoint slide is what they've recorded, and you can't hear it, and there's no captions to help you. So what would you do to kind of help with physical disabilities? Because a lot of what you said is kind of, it would be great if you had dyslexia or that sort of thing, but it doesn't really help those with issues regarding sight and hearing.
To speak on that, there's a brilliant program, and I have to say I cannot quite remember the name of it right now, but it's being applied in many different schools now, including psychology. And what it does is it's a series of intelligent features that work, artificial intelligence features, that work to sort of make accessible that which isn't for many people. So, for example, if you have a document, it'll be literally translated into Braille if you can't read it, and it'll be translated into things that you can listen to by, that sort of computer-generated voice. And it really has a lot of really good features, and I believe it's being it's possible to extend that into lecture capture as well. And I think once you get that, which I don't see why anyone wouldn't get that, because it's so sort of straightforward. Why wouldn't you make things accessible when you can, without any real cost connected to it? When that happens, I think that'll be a real benefit to the ILP students who are affected by that particular issue.
Yeah, so sort of following on from that, I know that there are some lecturers, some courses who already have in place the fact that lecturers will put up their scripts per se, and their notes and their slides on the alongside the lecture capture, so that those who are hard of hearing can read alongside watching it back. But also their students' learning and advisory service do so much already to give people who are hard of hearing, do have trouble with sight, someone there to go and sit in with them in lectures and to make notes for them. So I feel alongside sort of the student wellbeing push that I'd like to bring in place, it would be making sure that SLAS are better supported in giving the not only advice but the help that they constantly give at the moment, but just to boost that so that more people are not only aware of it but that more people are able to use that service. And in terms of the technology that Sean's speaking of, if that's something that can have a quick review about and then we can implement that as soon as possible, then that would obviously help more students than ever before. But these are just small changes that can be made, and with a wellbeing push that sort of, if the Kent Union can have that state of mind shift, then hopefully that will change how we see these other smaller issues.
Right, and then to go into some specific points in your manifestos. So in your manifesto, Victoria, you advocate for university-wide regulations and policies for assessments. How would this work when the schools are so different and the testing methods also differ greatly?
Okay, so that point is about how each individual school and how each individual module is assessed. So it's not necessarily bringing in a university-wide one-shoe-fits-all policy. It's about looking at the different schools, looking at the different courses and putting in place a varied assessment so that those students who do struggle with writing essays, or those students who do a science and they're great at the practical side but really struggle with the essay writing, it's more for them so that they can have that experience and go off into the world knowing that their employer can see the different skills that they have at their disposal, instead of, for example, I'm a humanities student and my exams consist of writing 2 essays in 2 hours. And whilst I'm not saying that that's not useful, because it makes you work under pressure, but there are definitely more types of assessments which would be more useful in an exam or a coursework moderated area, which would be more useful for me and more useful going forward into employment. After all, university is supposed to enhance our studies and make us prepared for the working world. So by bringing in the different types of assessment, it should make people more adept at handling different issues. So it's not necessarily about having a university-wide policy, but it's about having a university-wide change, as it were.
Yeah, just to add on to this, obviously we're talking about your manifesto point here, but I thought it was very clear that there was never any idea that you would have some sort of one thing to fit everyone. That's unrealistic, and I don't think that was implied by your manifesto either. People need a variety. People come to university to learn, and they come to university to be prepared for the work that they want to go out in after university. To do that, you need a variety of skills, and university should give you the option. It should give you the opportunity to learn these and demonstrate these different skills. As far as my manifesto is concerned, I think it's really important to make sure that the variety and the types of assessment that you have aren't arbitrary. They're not just, these are things that the universities assumes will be good for your skills. It's important that they are school and faculty specific. They relate to the kind of things that you'll go out to do when you have completed your degree in your specific course. That's what really matters. So that you don't feel like you're doing things that have no benefit. You feel like you're doing things that at least at the moment may seem less relevant, but you can see how it would be useful in the future. And I also think it's important then when you get to the years that really matter, your second and third year, that you have most of the variety and the learning of the new things previously, so that when you get to the last most important years, you can focus on, achieving well in the particular things that you've learned now and not have to learn new skills, which has been a problem in some modules.
Actually, focusing on assignments, in your manifesto, Sean, you say that assignments should be school-specific, fairly marked and appropriately weighted. Does this imply that you mean that you think that's not currently the case, so that they're not school-specific, fairly marked and appropriately weighted?
Not university-wide, certainly. In our school, we've, over the years, made some changes to certain modules because, for example, they've been 80% or 90% even, rarely, but 80% say, or 100% one thing and only 20% another thing. And when you have that situation, everyone has bad days, and you don't want that to completely ruin your module. You might be really good in the module, and you might really want to show how good you are in the module, but if you had that one bad day, it looks like this is something you're completely clueless about, and that's not fun. So I think it's important to make it more appropriate in the sense that you have closer to 60-40s, 70-30s, so that if something goes wrong, you still have something else to lean on and show that actually, when it comes to the end of the year, this isn't something I'm bad in, I just had a bad day. And there are still some modules, and certainly across different schools as well, where this needs to be implemented. And in regards to fairly marked and that sort of thing, this is something that can always be improved. There's always a next step to take, always something that can make the feedback more clear for students, make it more easy for them to learn from, all those sorts of things. I'm not saying that by definition it's not happening now, and I don't want to imply that either. I think it's rare, actually, certainly in the school that I've been governing for most of my time here. I just think that it can always be improved, and we should look for ways to do so.
And then, Victoria, a question specific to part of your manifesto. We're going to now move a bit to our focus on Medway for a tiny bit.
Yes.
So in your manifesto, you advocate for Drill Hall Library to be 24/7. How would you lobby Kent and the other universities to achieve this, and would you work with your counterparts at the other universities that use Drill Hall?
Yeah, of course. So I feel like my point on Medway is actually relatively unique, especially as this is the first year that we've had to have this Medway point of view in our manifesto. And of course, it's going to take a lot of cooperation with the other unions. And I know that this is something that comes from the student voice there. So it's not just the Kent students that are out there who are wanting this. And I think it's a bit unfair, actually, that Templeman Library is open 24/7 during term time, but Drill Hall isn't. So our Medway counterparts, or even those who study across both, don't benefit from the 24/7 access. And it's going to take a lot of cooperation from the other unions. But if that's something that the students want and the students are pushing for, which from those that I've spoken to and from just spending a couple of days in Medway, it's sort of really proved that that is something that is wanting to happen, and it's a change that is coming in its next steps. I know that in the last few years they've extended their opening hours anyway. So whilst I would push for a 24/7 Drill Hall, to just have extended hours would be an absolute win. Just to come a little bit earlier in the morning and a little bit later at night, just so those who do tend to push it with their essay writings or their lab reports can have that extra time to do their work, because it seems unfair that if you come to the Canterbury campus, you've got that advantage, but if you go to the Medway campus, you don't have that. So it's going to take a lot of cooperation, but I know that my counterparts at the other unions, or my hopeful counterparts at the other unions, are definitely have this in the back of their minds, because it is something that the Medway students have been pushing for a relatively long time. So I feel like I'm just sort of stepping up and taking that role and pushing for it as the hopefully VP academic experience of Kent.
Right, and then Sean, because in your manifesto when you talk about Medway, you claim that the Medway students are not included. So I wondered what evidence you had for this claim and what you would do to rectify the problem that you've noticed.
I mean, in my manifesto, I speak about a general feel of lack of inclusion, and I think it goes beyond Medway. I think it goes beyond Canterbury. But certainly, I mean, as far as the evidence I get is the evidence that I always want to have, and it's from speaking to the students that are relevant. So this is from conversations with Medway students and throughout the 3 years that I've been here. And also, I mean, just watching what's happening with my own eyes. I mean, you see events advertised for happening here, and you see them, you watch them happen, and you wonder, where are the Medway students? Was this advertised for them? And often I've been told that they weren't. So what I want to do about that is to sort of, obviously I think it's clear that most of our plans at least are long-term plans. Like she says, in terms of making Drill Hall Library 24/7 open, it may not happen immediately, but certainly we can push towards making it more accessible than it is now. And in the same way, I want to start a project towards making special things happening, events, whatever. I want to make it more accessible for Medway students. So, for example, having some of the events that take place here there instead, having them still open for Canterbury students, and sometimes having them completely closed off just for Medway students to build their community for themselves. But also, importantly, looking for options and possibilities to organise events between both Medway and Gillingham and here, because that way you can have more sort of unified view that we're both being looked at, we're both being taken care of, and we're both being appreciated.
And then Victoria, to look at another point in detail in your manifesto. In your manifesto, you advocate for a book borrowing scheme to be in place in the common rooms for the various schools, but wouldn't the books be located in Templeman and Drill Hall libraries?
Yeah, so this is sort of a point that is probably overlooked a lot. Whilst the library is a great place for resources, I know that I do ancient history, and a lot of the time the books are very expensive and they're few and far to find in the library itself, just because they are reference materials for one module and you only need it for 1 week. So if you've bought it for the whole term or for the year and you no longer need it after that year, a lot of the time the library won't stock books like that. And I know for like sciences, they're very expensive reference materials that you need. So it's already in place really in the English common room. They've got just 2 huge bookshelves full of books for various courses, various modules, just extra reading materials that people have bought and then leave there. So it's really for alumni or students who are moving between the years to leave their books there so that other students can have access to them. And I feel like that's really important, especially for building a sense of community within courses, within schools. If there's that resource there as well, then Templeman and Drill Hall Library will not feel the strain as much. There is only a limited amount of money that we can put into purchasing books, and there's only a limited amount of space in both of these libraries. So by having another outlet to have these reference materials and books that really are only needed for one tiny part of one tiny module, then it relieves the stress, especially of the university, but that also gives a space for students to go and talk about these materials and to put together study groups, and it gives that sense of community within courses. So it's not necessarily that I'm taking away from the work that the libraries are doing in the University of Kent, but more I'm giving them an outlet to help them, and so that there isn't so much of a strain and there isn't so much pressure on those libraries to be getting in X amount of books when really only if there's a couple and people just need to go and reference them. It will be much easier to do that in a common room, especially if there's keycard access, because then it's going to be more controlled.
Right, and then a question for you both, which we'll start with Victoria on. So, if elected, will you prioritise lobbying the university to enhance the student experience at Kent rather than undertaking campaigns that simply further your own political agenda?
That's a very good question. My manifesto in itself is very student-centric. I believe that as academic experience, we're no longer just solely education-based. We are in charge of people's social and academic lives together, especially as we're going to be taking on representatives and the academic societies. So especially if I get the role, I'll be concentrating mainly on the student and their voices and making sure that they're heard and that their experience here is as good as it can be, and be that through having to lobby the university to change policy about certain educational points, or be that to change how the academic societies themselves are run in order to help more people feel included, then that's how I'll spend my time. But a lot of the time it will be listening to the students, deciding what they want, what they need, and then going on that. I get that this is obviously an important role to both me and Sean, but at the end of the day, I'm doing this for the students, for everyone else to have as good an academic experience here as is possible. I feel like I've been so well supported through my last 3 years that this is a way of giving back to the students, and I will really take on board everyone's opinions and what they want and what is needed, as opposed to my own agendas.
And Sean?
I think one of the annoying and difficult things about campaigning is you have to turn an issue that is really not about yourself into something that is all about yourself. The amount of times I've told people to vote for me when really I want them to vote for themselves and themselves as students is almost frustrating, right? Because this is a union of students. Without the students, there's no union. And so whenever I fight for something, it's because that is what I believe the students want based on what they've been telling me. So when it comes to lobbying the university, every step of the way, that is what I'll be doing based on what the students are telling me. Hopefully that is also my agenda, because my agenda should always be what the students are telling me. These are things that, all my points, all my manifesto points, are things that reflect what students have been telling me. And for as long as they keep telling me that, they'll remain my manifesto points, they'll remain the things that I try to lobby the university into doing and focusing on. And also, obviously, the union, which I would be in a real position to lobby as one of the 5 leaders of it. So no, absolutely. I mean, it's a yes and yes kind of question, which I think is fair to say as well. Students should always come first, and the only way to make things really change is by taking their opinions to the university level and making them realize that this is important to everyone that's here. Their main client is the student body, and they have to listen when all of the union is supporting it.
Right, so do you want to do your closing statements now? And we'll start with Sean, because you've got the mic.
Sure. Right. So when I've been speaking to people about this campaign and this election, one of the things I've been doing the most is explaining what the election is, what my role is, and then trying to find out how much they actually know about it. I've had an increasing problem in finding people that know who the current SABs are, and the amount of times I've heard, I wouldn't have known about this election if it wasn't for you telling me, is a little concerning to me. We have roughly 20,000 students here at Kent. Last year, only around 3,500 voted in the leadership election, which is, of course, the most relevant election, aside from student repositions, that they will actually vote in. It's important. And the worst part is that that number is decreasing. In 2014, we had over 4,700, almost 4,800 students voting in these elections. And that's a reduction of over a fourth in just 4 years. I think that's shameful, because the thing is, the union can help students have the academic experience they deserve. And so I've built my campaign around making sure the students understand and start taking advantage of the union. This is, after all, like I said, a students' union, and without the students, there's no union. And so I think it's really important that that is put back in the forelight. So I want to improve the communication. I want to get on the ground and speak to people, because for too long now, and I think certainly you can see that with the development of the engagement, we're just names behind a computer screen. We're not out there. We're not in lectures asking how things are. We're not making sure that we know what students want. We sometimes communicate with reps, but is the information getting out there as much as it should? Absolutely not. And so when you get that communication out there, when you let people know who you are, where you are, then you can start building the communities that make sure that people have the best time they can have here. And you can start making the student spaces, and you can start getting the support for them from the students, because they know that if they speak to you now, they know that they'll be listened to, and they know that they can get stuff done. And that is the most crucial thing. Because when you have communities, you make relations and you make connections, and it can be with friends to help you through your grade, and it can be with, you know, academic staff that will help you further on later in life. There's so much that the union can do for you that's just not being taken advantage of. And the worst part is students don't even know what to ask for because they just don't engage, and they haven't been engaged with to the level that they should be.
Victoria?
So just to first off say thank you to KTV, Inquire and the union for really giving us this opportunity. I know like this experience is going to come with me for the rest of my life regardless of whether I win or lose. Hopefully I win. But yeah, so this position has changed a lot. I know people see this position as VP Education +1, but we're so much more than that now. We are academic experience. It's not just about what the university thinks the students need or want, and it's not just about the people behind the screen. As Sean said, it's about the students themselves, and we really need to be looking out for them. That's why I'm having a massive push for well-being in collusion with the studies, just because there's been such a lack of care and effort put into students and their relationships, not only with each other, but with their schools and with the university, and how they react to different events. And last year, or in this last year, we had a lot of difficult situations come up, and the students have not always been listened to. They've not always been given a voice, and that is going to be our job to do now. And I know a lot of the candidates are taking these new roles and they're running with them, and I just want to give this role the energy that it deserves. And a lot of people don't understand really what academic experience means, and to be honest, I don't think either of us can truly answer that until we've had a week in the role, and until we've sat there and listened to the students and given them what they want. I'm here for well-being, I'm here for 24/7 drill hall, and I'm here for silly things like common rooms with book borrowing schemes in them, which might seem menial, but to students they are pretty much everything. They are that collective space, and we are that collective voice. And I just want to be able to give back to everyone who has helped me get to where I am, and I would like to do this for all the students who feel underrepresented, and to all the students who don't think they've got a voice at the union or at the university. It's going to be our job to put forward that voice, and it's going to be our job to hopefully give them a more positive future and to get them engaged, because that's all we're really here to do. That's what this debate's for. That's the new role really, and I'd just like to ensure that every student has an experience that they'll take with them for the rest of their lives, and that's why together we can have a victory with Vicky.
Okay, well, thank you, Victoria and Sean, for coming in and talking to us and outlining all about academic experience. But tomorrow we've got the president debates coming up. So it's important to kind of let you know a bit about what's going to be happening, so that then you can go onto the Kent Union website, submit your questions, and you'll actually understand what you'll be thinking about and the questions you'll need to be submitting. So that is why we're going to be playing some videos from the current president of the union, who's going to be telling you a bit about his role in preparation for tomorrow's debate, which we will also be bringing you on KTV at 6 p.m. So check it out. It's got some very important information, and Aaron's a great speaker, so he'll kind of explain it in a really easy way to understand. So I hope you enjoy, and it should be coming out right about now.
On an average day, the role of the union president has a lot of different facets. So to some extent I talk to students, to some extent I'm also the chair of the board, so I might have to talk about governance and talk about our committees within the union, and also do things like board effectiveness as well. But on a day-to-day, it's a lot of meetings, so meeting internally with staff to work on campaigns, but also working with the university, and meeting with like the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellors, and talking about key issues that students are facing. Candidates, election time is always stressful, it's always a lot of work, long nights, long days, but stay in there, don't give up, it'll be worth it in the end, and even if you don't win, the experience is amazing, so give your best and do your best for students. First thing I did, obviously you're in the venue celebrating with your friends, you go through the interviews and stuff, but I think the first thing I did was tell my parents, because they were very proud of me. They were watching it live when it was on, and it was just great to kind of tell them that I did it, and it was my time, I guess. So yeah, just kind of making sure that I celebrate with my friends and family was important to me.
So those were the debates for the academic experience and postgraduate experience.
That was I feel like all the candidates were really strong in the way that they presented themselves.
They handled it all very well. I mean, it felt quite intense.
Exactly. I didn't feel like they were like scared or shy, or they really said what they point, and you could tell that they really believed in like the things that they actually said.
Some of the points from the manifesto, like it seemed really personal. For example, with Floris.
Yes. He actually mentioned that he actually experienced mental health issues. That's why he's so adamant for the mental health counsellors and to be more involved. So I definitely feel like him making that personal statement just made it more like surreal and made it more like, oh my God, that's why he wants to do it. So it gave answers to his manifesto.
It really does back it up.
Yeah.
It makes it so much stronger, and because of the personal link between it. But not only him, all the other candidates, they have similar things.
Definitely.
Also for for academic experience. For example, one of the examples they gave was using captions, making it easier for people who have disabilities.
Yeah, and difficult to hear. I feel that's really good because, like I was mentioning before about the minorities and how they're not really that represented. So I just feel like if the minority represent, like people, for example, who can't hear properly in lectures, having those captions is a really smart idea, because obviously I've never thought about that before. So that's why the fact that they thought about it and they haven't gone through it, but they were thinking about others, shows what type of leaders that they are. So I thought
that's really good. So elections, voting starts on Monday.
Yes,
and there are two ways you can vote. Our president Aaron from Kent Union, he said in many times, you can see it through this live and last week's live and probably tomorrow's live, but you can either do it online which is the easy way to do it. So there's no excuse to not vote.
Yeah, because personally, I would do it online. If I'm on campus, then I'll do it on campus. But
And
I would do
I
it
mean,
online.
you can do it on your laptop. You can do it on your phone. There's so many bits of technology. You can
Or
use
if you want to do it at campus, make sure you head to Venue. Then it will be over there, so you can vote.
And freebies. I mean, what is better than that?
Exactly, and I love freebies, so I know that it would be more motivated to go there. So I would definitely consider going.
And I think you can vote like a couple times, and you also have different types of election. Like they're different candidates, they're different categories. So
exactly.
I mean, you can go every day, and I mean,
yeah,
get more
and if you
freebies.
want, the candidates will be at the plaza. So if you definitely want to go there, speak to them. Like
Ask
I
questions.
said, interrogate them. Then definitely
Don't
go.
interrogate them.
I would interrogate them. I would say,
Pin them
how you gonna do
down.
this? How you gonna do that? But definitely just have a conversation with them to get to know them. Definitely try that.
Get to know them, especially if they're going to represent what maybe your beliefs or values for next year, and you want to see those improvements actually happen.
Yeah.
Go ask questions, and results to the elections will be
Friday, and it will be streamed actually live on KTV. So if you do want to know the results, make sure you tune into KTV on Friday to get to know those results.
But the more of you guys vote, the better the results will be.
Exactly.
Even more captivating. And tomorrow we're going to have the
presidential
debates. Debates.
Yeah, and that will also be shown on KTV. So make sure you stay tuned into that. The presidential ones, that's the big one, isn't it, that we're all waiting for?
Everyone, who can replace Aaron?
I know, but
the debates will also hopefully happen at Woody's.
Yeah,
so
hopefully,
hopefully no more technical difficulties. Because I mean, you have the couches, you have the plants, you have the decor, you have the big TVs.
Yeah.
So it's stunning.
That will be tomorrow, and actually, I'll be the one that's going to be asking the questions and stuff like that. So
you can interrogate them.
Yeah, so I'll interrogate them. But the thing is I want to make sure that I have the right questions. So I'm going to make sure that I write the right questions. But you can also send your questions into Kent TV's social media, and I'll definitely have a look at that, and I'll make sure that I'll try to answer them as much questions.
I mean,
as
the
possible.
key factor is just get involved.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're presenting you, so the best thing you can do for yourself and for others is just get in the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. So this was really good. The fact that we got to see the academic experience and postgraduate experience. I hope you guys got more in depth on the candidates and when watching the debates as well. So make sure you also stay tuned for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is going to be really, really exciting.
So the presidential one. So don't miss out. And it was really good speaking to you guys.
So thank you so much for watching these elections and the debates. I've been Rebecca.
I've been Sabrina, and this is KTV.
Tune in tomorrow.